By the way, I'm hoping that all knew that you could open this meeting to your section's officers and not just chairs, right? I believe that information was put out, or I'm hoping it was. And Harold, I haven't seen you in a while. Harold, how are you, sir?
I don't know if you could hear me. Did you hear me?
Harold, I can hear you.
Good.
So we'll get going at 9:05.
You know, Vince will be on. I don't know if you got the email yesterday from Vince, Ed, that he was stuck in South Carolina and he'll be on late. His plane was delayed.
Yes. Chances are he may or may not be here. So when it comes to his section, I will cover it if he's not here.
Yeah, I am here right now, and you're right. I'll probably be on an airplane when my section comes up in the agenda. But I did
do you
send
want
a
me,
report out.
Vincent? Do you want us to? How long will that be?
I'm probably gonna. I think I'm scheduled for 1 to 4, so I'll be on the airplane for that. Obviously, out of touch. So if my item comes up in the agenda during that time, Ed just cover it. You have my written report.
Okay, but what I like to do is maybe we'll put you up. We'll move you up on the agenda just to make sure that you can have your you can make a presentation. All right.
Yep.
We can do that. We can do that. Yeah, I very much want to have your presentation because I think you have a request for budget, and want to make sure we cover that. Okay, folks. So let me call this meeting to order. I'm gonna bang my gavel. Welcome all to our Region 1 Board of Governors meeting. We will run hopefully half a day today. I'm hoping that all of you have received, I will say it again at the end of the meeting, but all of you have been informed that tomorrow has been moved since we expect some of us to not have, possibly not have electricity and therefore no connectivity. So we've decided to be proactive on that and schedule tomorrow to another week, with either next week or the following. You will hear from that shortly, but tomorrow has been pushed. Okay, let's a roll call. Peter, are you working through that roll call?
I am working my way through it as quickly as I can. It's going to take a while because people are still signing on.
Okay, so I will move to the discussion of the agenda. Do we have any comments to the agenda? Any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as is?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you very much. Anyone against? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. We may, I'm going to ask you to allow me the opportunity to move Vince up at some appropriate point to make sure that we get his report prior to him boarding a plane. But beyond that, we're good. So my remarks are as follows. Today is a day where I hope many of you will get significant information of all the many things that happen within the IEEE. So we have invited multiple, I would call them very important people to brief us, and you get a very broad view of you know, the bigness, the broadness of the Institute in all as many things. And I think it's necessary for us to know that because we are a very large organization that does many things. And so these types of presentations give you that view and that feeling. So I thank all the VIPs here. You will be hearing from them at the beginning, and it will be good. It will be good for all of us to listen to the broadness of the institute. This is my last meeting here, except maybe the next whatever the next section of this meeting happens within the next week. I have been the director that never had a face-to-face meeting. It's an interesting view of 2 years. Having said that, I think that we have done okay in the virtual world, and so it's been a pleasure to serve, and I will keep doing that until the end of the year. So with that, let's get started. Greg, your remarks.
My remarks, let's see, I have mostly, I was sort of tasked with quickly, it came to our attention yesterday that that there are probably about 10 or more sections that are due for officer re-elections, specifically section chairs. And so I wanted to review this today because it's August. There's not much time left for elections, and I wanted to make sure that everybody was on board with exact rules on this because there's been a lot of confusion over the last several years as to, you know, who can become a section chair, what the term lengths are, and so forth. And so I wanted to give some clarity to that so that everybody was on board. There are some guidelines that we have put on the web for running elections, so I'm not going to focus on that today. And if you need help on that, there are several individuals that have helped draft those guidelines, and we can point you to them at a later point in time. So just a quick review. Section officers can be graduate student members, regular members, senior members, life members, or fellow grade members. The elections have to take place either every 1 or 2 years, and this is what gets confusing because it's in accordance with the term of the office as defined by the section. So here's where the little trick comes in play. Remember, sections can no longer have bylaws. The bylaws have to be, you have to follow the bylaws specified by MGA. A section can have an operating procedure, which is different from a set of bylaws, and the operating procedure can define the term length as either 1 or 2 years. So you have, each section is different in that regard, so you have to, those have to be publicly available and on your web, which state what the term is. If you do not have operating procedures, let me say it again, if you do not have operating procedures, then your term lengths are 2 years, whether you know it or not. So you should check to make sure that you have operating procedures, because if you think your term is 1 year and you don't have operating procedures, in reality it's 2. And that's the way it's spelled out. Now, any individual can continue in the position until the successor has been elected and takes office. The term of office is typically January 1st through December 31st, and you can serve 2 consecutive terms in office if perhaps there is a problem in finding people to nominate for a particular role. Then the director has the ability to waive that restriction. But normally you can only serve a total of 6 years and 2 consecutive terms. So if you were to serve 6 years, you would serve, and it was a 2-year term, that would be 2 terms with someone else going next, and then need be you go the 3rd term for a total of 6 years. Or if you have 1-year term lengths, then obviously you could serve 6 1-year terms, but they can only be consecutive for 2 terms. So there would always have to be a gap. All right, so that's all I really have on the section chair, on the elections of all officers within your section, not just section chairs. So this may apply to everyone for chapters as well as sections. Are there any questions on this? Because this has come up several times, and I admit it's sometimes pretty confusing with respect to the term length. Are there any questions on that?
I have a question for the student branches. Is this applicable to them as well, unless they've got their operating procedures in place?
No, I don't know the answer to that, I'm going to admit, and I will defer to Charlie. Charlie might know the answer to that.
So the student branches also have a section in Section 9 of the MGA operating procedures. However, because typically a student is a student for a much shorter period of time, typically these are one-year terms of office, and I'm not aware of any restriction for them to be reelected. Say that further information on that could be obtained by soon reaching out to the Student Activities Committee for clarification.
I was also interested if
Raj here. I have one question regarding the operating procedure. Do we need, can the executive committee for the section create and get that approved, or they need approval from all the members of the section for having an operating procedure?
That's another good question. I know it was done in Rochester, but I'm not sure of the exact terminology. Charles, do you know that one as well?
Yes, sir. So the XCOM of the section and or the XCOM of the chapter can create their own operating procedures or operations manual. If it's at the chapter level, it would then go to the section for endorsement and then must be filed with the region and go through a simple review at the region level so that everyone knows what's happening. My recollection is that our secretary is the current bylaws person. I'm just looking at my roster.
Yes, I am.
Yes. And the director and the secretary at the very least should receive those. You probably also want to send those over to your area chair for their information.
Thank you.
And CJ just posted the ops manual on MGA operations manual on the chat. Have a link on that. And she says, see section 9.
I don't know what happened to my video. Okay, so I guess I have one more thing to say on this, and that is that Pete will be working on creating a list of Board of Governors individuals in January. And if you do not send us the name of your chair and their contact information, they won't ever be contacted by Region 1. Okay, so that's how we know how to put people on the web. That's how Pete knows to put people on that sheet. So if there are individuals in your section that aren't getting contacted because they're not on the listserv, it's probably because we don't have their contact information. And I think we would really appreciate knowing precisely which sections are going to be having elections for section chairs so that Pete can prepare those in advance, because if it even takes 2 or 3 months to get that list kind of finalized, that's a whole quarter of the year that we've lost in contact. So he spends a lot of time working on this in early January. So I'm asking now that you, if you are having elections, make sure you send something to him so that he can at least highlight in his current list, I need to check this one next January.
And just a point, even though, you may be eligible for another term, that doesn't mean that you can bypass the election process, right? The election process happens every time you have an election cycle. So if you're on a yearly election, every year you have an election. If you had a 2-year cycle, every 2 years you have an election. So the fact that there is a group that can stay 2 years doesn't mean that you bypass elections. You got to have elections. So, okay, Greg, anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Um, I had missed out something in my original director's remark, and so we held an assembly meeting this morning, and that assembly meeting looked and approved the 2022 budget and reviewed and approved the 22 Region 1 awards, which will be made public once the awardees are notified. Okay. Okay, you go back to the agenda, please.
Yes. Okay, we should be here.
The secretary, we're into the secretary remarks.
Okay, I had two things, and one of them's already been covered, the necessity for getting up-to-date contact information to section chairs and anyone else who's changing office to me. That's vitally important so we can keep communications open. That takes care of one thing I wanted to talk about, and here's the second one, and that is something I think everyone should be aware of. I discussed it last night at the XCOM meeting, but everyone on the board should know what's happening because it affects money. This is the second year that we have postponed a face-to-face board meeting. Last year, we were supposed to be up in Massachusetts, as we were again this year. We're supposed to be there right now, of course. And the hotel was very gracious. They're holding roughly in round numbers, $18,000 in prior payments, for last year. With no penalty, they moved the meeting to this year. They didn't penalize us anything. They just moved the deposit from last year's meeting to this year's meeting. We again are moving the meeting. Now, if you look at the contract, contractually, what we're really doing is canceling the meeting. We are contractually obligated to a penalty at this point of some $36,000 if we cancel. Upper management for the hotel said that what they were willing to do would be to just penalize us the deposits that we have of some $18,000 as long as we were scheduling another meeting, which we have done for next year. They're holding the dates for us already. I did a little negotiating with them, shall we say, and I got them to agree to not $18,000, but half of that, $19,250, one of the two prior deposit payments that we made, and the remaining monies that we've already given them would be handled as a deposit or handled toward the deposit for next year.
Peter, you meant 9,000, not 19,000, right? 9,000.
9,000, I'm sorry. Yeah, they were holding
you.
18,000, yes, and it would be 9,000 that would be moved. $9,250 penalty, and $9,250 would be moved into the deposit for the meeting next August. I have spoken with our contact at MCE and asked them to please bring it to legal. And if legal agrees with it and sees no problem, then we will draw up a new contract for the meeting next summer, which will be held where it was supposed to be right now, up in Southbridge, Massachusetts. And I'm just waiting to hear from legal. I know that takes time. I spoke to MCE the beginning of this past week, Tuesday, as I believe, and waiting to hear what they say, what legal says. And I expect within the next week or so to have a definitive answer, and then we'll draw up a contract for next year. And that is my report, unless anybody has a question about what's happening with the contract for the hotel.
So Pete, the 9,000 is finally truly gone, right? That is not moving into next year.
Yeah, the 9,000 would be the penalty for in effect postponing this meeting 2 years in a row.
Yes.
Strictly speaking, if the hotel wants to really, stand on legal grounds, there's a contract that says we've canceled the meeting. If we want to hold a meeting next year, that's a fresh new contract and we're in the hole for $36,000.
Right.
So I personally think, considering this is the second year in a row we've had to cancel from the same hotel, that the $9,000 is fairly reasonable. They've been holding rooms that they can't sell.
I would agree. Yes.
Let me add one thing to that really quickly, which is there's a hurricane coming, and had we held the meeting, we might have ended up canceling it on the fly anyway with the pending hurricane. So we might have been in the hole 36,000 anyway.
No,
So
if
that
we
way,
were, that would have been considered an act of God, and we probably wouldn't be in, I'd have to go back to I have it, I don't have it in front of me. We probably would not be in the hole for anything. But you can't wait till the last second and do something and just not show up, yesterday for last night's meeting and say, oh, it's because there's an impending hurricane.
yeah.
This
Okay.
is something that we knew, that we knew we had to cancel it or postpone it long before we knew about the hurricane coming.
So I guess the other thing that is worth mentioning really quick is that this was discussed as part of the budget yesterday. And for those of you that weren't at that meeting, keep in mind we have not had 2 in-person meetings. So in fact, we've saved that money over the last 2 years for the total cost of the meeting. And so this is sort of a drop in the bucket in comparison to what we would have spent over the last 2 years.
Yeah, and if you look at it, when you consider also travel expenses for the members to come to the meetings, we've actually saved something in the neighborhood. And Bala will have to give me the exact number, but it's somewhere in around $70,000 that we didn't have to spend. So all in all,
So I looked at
so
this
terrible.
somewhat slightly different. Let me just say that the region is quite well financially, so I can lose a little bit of money, but I can't lose any volunteers, right? The reason we decided to cut out the meeting is because of the current pandemic. So for us, regardless of the number, I think the decision is the right decision. We can get on with it, and from a big scheme of things, we can afford it, and it's the right thing to do. So we did. Right? And monetary was actually interesting, but that really wasn't the decision. We would have made the decision regardless of the monetary impact. Okay. Anything else, Secretary?
No, sir.
And that brings us to the next agenda. And before I give the floor to Charles, so let me just say, we over this last year, all of us have been impacted, and some of us have been impacted deeply, and we have lost folks that we know and we cherish, and so we felt it appropriate for us to take some time and at least honor that. And so we've asked all the area chairs to work with the sections to give us a name of those volunteers and that we have lost as a result of the pandemic. And Charles is going to do flash some charts, and we're going to look at their names and think of them. The other thing that I have to say is right before this meeting, I got a call that Lulu Siri is in the hospital. And he subsequently resigned his life member chair position. Now, Lou is a previous director. Lou has been involved in Region 1 for many, many years. He's actually the reason that I am here. He was the person that, kind of tapped my shoulder to get involved in electro many, many, many years ago. Lou is going through some difficult times, and we think of him and we pray for him and we hope everything works well. All right, so Charlie, I'm going to give you the floor now.
Thank you. I'm going to try to share my screen.
Okay, I can do that.
Is that my meeting window, I guess?
Yep, go ahead. I turned off the sharing on my
Right.
end. You should be able to share
Okay.
with my friend now.
So Okay. What am I doing wrong?
You're just not a sharer, Charlie. You don't share well.
Oh, oh,
Yeah, you ain't
Okay.
kidding.
okay, I'm sharing my, okay, there it goes, right?
Well, you're sharing everything. So share just the PowerPoint.
So let me get this straight. You teach IT at the university, right?
Okay, so, sharing my meeting window, are you
Right.
seeing?
So first stop the sharing and then
Okay.
start sharing again and choose the application for PowerPoint. So at the upper left, I can see your window. So yeah, there you go. And now when you somehow it's still sharing your whole screen.
Okay, hold on. This is not working well. Okay.
Greg, do you have his presentation?
Of course I do.
Charlie, can we go to
Take me out and
option two?
we'll go to Plan B.
That's right. Let's go to Plan B. Full screen and boogie.
Okay, all right. So okay. As Director Palacio indicated, we have many Region 1 leaders who have lost their lives either during or due to the COVID pandemic in the last 2 years. Normally, we would have a moment of silence for them during our in-person meetings. This is a compilation of materials that I've received from the various area chairs, from CJ and MGA, as well as the History Center. Next. We're all saddened by Irv Engelson's passing. He served as a Region 1 director, a Division 6 director, and was IEEE Managing Director of Technical and Corporate Activities. I apologize to the others on these lists. I will not be reading their names, but rather just showing the individuals themselves on this wall of honor. Next. The fellow that's the last on the list is the reason that I ended up being assigned this task, because I was for a few days, several months ago, declared non-existent by IEEE. My alias was removed because in their infinite wisdom, someone saw Charles Rubenstein and didn't further examine the fact that it wasn't me. That Charles B. Rubenstein is not a past Region 1 director and is not me. And as Ed would indicate, I ain't dead yet. Next. 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 We thank all of them and all of you for your services to our members, and hope that those that we have recognized will rest in peace. And please, if I've overlooked someone that has been instrumental in your section, it was not intentional. It was because I wasn't informed. Again, I want to thank the colleagues at MGA and the History Center and our fellow board leaders for providing these names. The next slide, and this whole slide set will be up. This slide indicates some information about the oral history program and the new Life Fellow project that is being done by Marianne Helvigil at the History Center. Please contact her if you are interested in having your oral history or being part of the group that will be obtaining others' oral histories. That is my report, Mr. Director.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appropriate. And like we said, if we miss one, it's because we were never informed. But it has been a sad year. All right, let's get back to our agenda.
All right. The next one is the recorded meeting, the recorded message of,
Okay, so now we're going to start listening to different aspects and facets of the larger IEEE, and we will start with, I believe is,
all right, so we're gonna try this. If you don't hear any sound, then we might be stuck, but let's give it a try. Did anyone hear that?
not a thing.
Nothing? Nothing. All right, so this is a favorite feature of WebEx that I can't figure out. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm not gonna be able to play this, Ed, but let me show something really quick. That's really unfortunate. Every time I do this, it seems to be a mystery.
So let's do the following. Let's post that and so that everybody can see Ray
Yep.
presentation. Ray is our president-elect. He had a video for us. I had asked them to provide some words. He says he would provide us a short video. It is, I believe, 5 minutes or so. Please take time to listen. He will be our next CEO.
So if everyone you don't have to do this now, but if you at a later point in time navigate on the page for the meeting on the Region 1 site, at the bottom you'll see all of the different reports that can be submitted. If you click on other reports, it'll pull up the reports from other officers, and here you'll see the presentation for Ray Liu. If you click on that, it'll bring up his presentation that you can watch on your own web browser at your own time. I see, Joe, that you tried to start it. I would just assume that maybe keep going and rolling, because I've done this before and I don't want to waste a lot of time, but I think everybody can watch it themselves. I'll do this at the break. I'll try to fix this, and if I can, we'll do it the first thing after break.
Okay. Kate, are you here? Do we have Kate Duncan on
No, she is not online.
I know that she wants to be here.
I just checked the list again and I do not see her.
All right.
Nope.
Let's do something. I will send her a note, but in the meantime, we're going to move to somebody I absolutely know is here. And so we will have IEEE's Executive Director, Steve Welby. And so, Steve, thank you for being here. And Greg, let's get to his presentation. Steve, are you going to run yours, or do you want us to flip here?
I'll run mine from here if I can. And I just want to confirm you can hear me okay, Ed?
Yes, we're good. We're good.
Okay, super. So let me just bring it up right now.
All right, let me.
One more second here. That large enough so everybody can see it. And bring it into Ramon. Okay, great. I think just confirm people can see my charts.
Yes.
Great. So thanks, everyone. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all today. I know Ray would be disappointed. He was looking forward to folks seeing that video. And let me offer also our current IEEE president, Kathy Land. I spoke to her yesterday. She asked me to pass along her regrets that she couldn't join us today. She's on a family vacation far from any internet access, and she's looking forward to the quiet time. I'm hoping to show you some things that I think we don't normally talk about at these meetings. To give you a look at some of the other activities, as Ed mentioned, going on around IEEE. I'll mention some things happening in education, some of the things happening in publications, just to give you a sense of other activity going on. And I hope this is useful to everyone. And I know the charts are posted. So I think I know most folks on the call. I'm Steve Welby. I'm the Executive Director of IEEE. I serve as the Chief Operating Officer of IEEE. I lead the worldwide staff and support the volunteer leadership in the overall management of the global IEEE operations. And when I think about what we do, I like to show this chart when I talk to folks about IEEE, because I think it's sometimes we don't start by talking about our mission. I think it's very important that IEEE is a mission-focused organization, and in everything we do, our purpose is fostering technological innovation and advancing technology for the benefit of humanity. And I think that's a remarkable mission. It's an enormously important piece of work that IEEE does, and we do that through a number of activities. All of our technology efforts, our technology activities, the many societies that make up IEEE are all supporting and sponsoring education and research on the frontiers of their individual fields. Our work in standards brings companies together that create billions of dollars and improve the human condition. Almost in everything we do, the work of IEEE is about building communities. We bring people together, we convene, we allow folks to do more together than they could do individually. And of course, we do that through our membership, divided and organized as geographically distributed units made up of regions and sections and local chapters, all of which allows engineers to find each other and do more together. And I said engineers, of course, and if I fall into the trap of using engineers, because I mean engineers in the broadest sense, I should be using the word technologists, computer scientists, and other technically affiliated individuals. I just want to quickly show you some numbers. As of the end of last year, IEEE had 396,000 members in 160 countries. We have 46 technical societies and councils that range from very deeply narrow technical activities in and around very specific piece of technology focused on signal processing or information theory or other areas. And then we have broad groups that are looking at, for example, engineering education or the impact of technology on society. We have 107,000 student members as the end of last year, and I think those are some of our most important places that we can influence the future. Those students are the future of our profession. They're going to shape the world after us, and the work we do with our students, I think, is enormously important. I know that either Michael Lucan or Cecilia Jankowski are speaking later. I've not included detailed charts on membership numbers because I believe that they'll cover it in their presentations. When you think about the technical breadth of IEEE, this is the numbers from last year, and I find this remarkable because this is the numbers from the COVID year. We still put on almost 2,000 conferences around the world, despite the impact of COVID. About a little bit over 100 of those were in person, largely occurred early in the year. Though we continue to have in-person conferences, not just outside the United States, but we've had meetings within the United States in the last few months with over 1,000 people successfully with very tight public health controls, managed to avoid any kind of incident. Last year, we've crossed the 5 million technical document in our publication library. Those documents represent kind of the foundation of engineering technical knowledge. We're publishing today over 200 periodicals, and we have over 1,300 active standards in areas that range from power to communication to nuclear qualification to new areas like ethics and artificial intelligence. And then we have an enormous social impact. If Kate, when Kate gets out, she'll talk about the work that IEEE USA does in Washington on U.S. public policy, but IEEE is engaged in influencing global public policy, whether in Washington or Brussels or Beijing, IEEE is a voice that influences the future of the way that technology is being driving public policy. We have direct global humanitarian efforts that are impacting lives around the world. A major focus of the last 2 years has been on education across IEEE, including a major focus on developing a whole new suite of low-cost or free continuing educational resources for our members. And then finally, a major focus for the last few years has been thinking about ethics and technology. Just a quick comment on the IEEE staff. We've been, I think, significantly impacted by the pandemic. We've been trying to manage the safety of our staff while supporting our members through this complex time. As of today, all of our U.S. offices are open. I'm here today. You can see Grand Central probably behind me. I'm in the Manhattan office. I rotate between the New York, Washington, D.C. and New York City offices. Our California office opened in June. Our office in Singapore is opening this week, which is great news for us. Our office in Tokyo is really open only when necessary, given the current state of emergency there. And we've managed to reopen the office in India. So all of our offices are open in some capacity. We have not brought the full staff back. Most of the staff remains working from home just to account for safety. But we are having meetings, and I'm in the office every day. For your information, I just want to point out that we are now in the IEEE annual election season. This is very important, and it helps, is an opportunity for all of our members to shape the future of IEEE. The election opened last week and runs through the 1st of October. The online digital elections are open. I think the paper ballots, for those who still receive them, go out this week. I list on the screen some of the major elections that are going on. Of course, the IEEE president-elect, and then division, region, standards association, technical activities, IEEE USA. And for the first time, the women in engineering leadership is now on the global ballot. We've elevated that so that everyone can have an opportunity to engage in that election. And what's not listed on the chart are all of the technical society elections, which are also going on. Their timing's just slightly different, and so I've included a link in the charts to the schedule. One of the major activities over the last year has been a real focus on rethinking IEEE's efforts around diversity, equity, inclusion in our professions. And I just wanted to note that one of the most recent things that we've done is post a very visible public website focused on IEEE's commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion. It includes resources that folks can review about not only what IEEE is doing, but broader efforts in the world. We reference, for example, some of the things that we've been engaged with the UN in global access to engineering for women. It includes the IEEE diversity statement, which the board of directors approved in 2019, and the recent overhaul of the IEEE Code of Ethics and the reporting process by which we hold each other to account for violations of that Code of Ethics was just refreshed in the last year as well. It's one thing to kind of talk about diversity and inclusion, and it's one thing to act. I was very pleased that in June, the board of directors recognized that some of our processes associated with how, for example, authors address their identity online in IEEE publications were causing certainly perceived harm to individuals. It was very difficult for one to change their name on an IEEE publication, whether because of marriage or divorce or religious conversion, change in gender alignment, or any other reason that might have triggered this, without getting permission from a long list of individuals, some of whom may have been involved or the source of the reason that you changed your name. And so the board acted to eliminate a potential harm, addressing a concern about certainly the appearance of, or a concern about IEEE not recognizing concerns about diversity and identity. And I think this is the sort of thing that I think we're now much more conscious of, and we're taking action to not just talk about this but to really engage in improving our actions in the world. I have one chart here just to warn folks about an ongoing concern with folks using IEEE for phishing attacks. The world is a complex place in cyberspace. we've seen some very sophisticated email campaigns aimed at IEEE members recently. Many of our relationships are visible on IEEE websites. The organization's structure is visible. I'll point to just one campaign which spoofed the IEEE president's email address and sent notes to others requesting that they provide emergency financial support. You should not be receiving ever emails from any other IEEE members asking for gift cards, for check writing or anything else. And if there's a possibility of it, it's always confirm it through another channel. Unfortunately, we have had folks who've fallen for these kind of schemes. And I also encourage folks to think carefully about the current and very significant risk of ransomware. Always be careful what you click on. IEEE has a dedicated cybersecurity staff. If you have any questions about any IEEE messages, anything that comes through IEEE.org email that you're concerned about it, you can always forward it to security@IEEE.org, and we would really appreciate it because member messages often give us early warning of large-scale attacks on our membership. In the treasury discussion in the XCOM meeting last night, there was some discussion about the IEEE next-gen system. A major effort over the last year has been an overhaul of all of IEEE's financial policies and our finance systems. In May, we rolled out a major investment in a new financial system across IEEE. It's cloud-based, and it allows all the finances of IEEE, whether it's a geo unit in Malaysia, whether it's a conference being run in San Francisco, whether it's payroll for staff in Piscataway, New Jersey, to all be integrated into a single online system in the cloud, accessible by volunteers and staff anywhere. It provides much greater visibility and traceability into the accounts of IEEE in real time. And we're hoping that this will allow us to run IEEE more efficiently and more effectively in the future. This has been a pretty heavy lift. We've done a lot of training for volunteers and staff. And despite some, I think, initial growing pains associated with adopting any major system, we've successfully moved both historical and current accounts into this new environment, and we're now running IEEE in this system. If you are engaged with this, I appreciate your patience as we get this all in place. We were already building lists of user interface changes and some new training to make it even simpler in the future. I think that's part of, by design, we wanted to deploy this quickly and get feedback so we could adjust over time. I'm not going to go through this chart, but it lists many of the things we're trying to accomplish here in terms of reducing burden on individuals, bringing people into kind of common banking practices, regardless of where in the world they're in, allow us to operate with multiple currencies, getting us out of paper checks into electronic payments worldwide, and allowing us to provide a more real-time view of IEEE's finances. I want to quickly mention our conference activities, just to show you some numbers this year. To date, we've had 380 IEEE conferences conducted through July, and we have 522 planned through the rest of the year. These are financial conferences. These are meetings where IEEE has a financial stake. This doesn't count our technically co-sponsored conferences, which are a much larger number. But it just shows, I think, the changing mix. A few years ago, we would have had no virtual or hybrid meetings on this chart. You can see today that it's dominated by virtual and hybrid meetings. But all those hybrid meetings have an in-person component. We've conducted over 55 of those to date this year, and we have almost 100 planned going forward through the rest of the year. So our members and stakeholders are convening, and IEEE is connecting research and technologists around the world. Publications remains active in 2021. We've been growing full text downloads. That's a measure of how many people are accessing IEEE technical content. And we've seen that grow 21% over the same time last year. And so universities are back. People value IEEE's content. People are accessing IEEE publications. Just so far this year, we've published over 100,000 total conference papers on IEEE Explore. and we're now accelerating those. Those aren't kind of conference papers from conferences last year being published this year. Over 54,000 of them are from conferences conducted already this year. So the time to publish from a meeting has been reduced significantly, so we can get cutting edge research out quickly to folks who can use it. There's been a lot of concern over time about open access and the shift in model in the publications business. IEEE has fully adopted open access, and we've been creating new open access venues as the model in scientific publishing has changed. Just this year, we've added 5 new transactions and journals, 3 of which are fully open access, and 2 of which are hybrid journals, which offer open access or subscription depending on author preference. And we're currently on track to launch 11 more new publications in emerging areas like machine learning here in the next 12 months. We're trying to make it easier for authors to publish with IEEE. Our author portal allows authors to engage with IEEE in a much simpler way and to take advantage of some of the new tools that we now offer. Tech Archive is the IEEE preprint server, and so even before peer review occurs on a paper, you can post it online, have it referenced by IEEE, get your research artifacts out into public, and then as it's peer reviewed and finally published, that life cycle is fully visible within these portals. It allows people to share research in new ways, faster and easier. If you haven't had a chance to look at IEEE Spectrum recently, the print copy you probably receive at home looks different. It went through a significant refresh earlier this year. I'm pretty excited by it. It makes it much more readable and much more, I think, interesting to visually. And we've also updated the IEEE website. If you haven't been on IEEEspectrum.org recently, spectrum.ieee.org recently, I encourage you to take a look. It's we've now made it a much more modern website. Both current and historic content is available. It integrates video and other features directly onto the page. And it now includes new opportunities for us to create member-only experiences so that IEEE members can dig deeper into articles or access other material that other viewers can't. We've seen just an enormous uptake of this website since it's launched. One of the features is that it's much faster and it works much better on mobile devices and tablets. Our Future Directions group is one of the ways that we shape the future of IEEE. Future Directions are investments in technology areas that don't fit into our existing technical societies, but that we see emerging. And so IEEE creates these Future Directions groups to organize conferences, potentially to arrange publications, to find places where members can meet and talk about topics that are on the cutting edge that don't necessarily fit into our existing societies. We've now created small groups, which are even lighter weight structures for exploring new technologies. This can be stood up quickly with small amount of resources. And we seed these to allow them to start to build a kind of international presence for IEEE in these areas. I'm excited about the list that was just turned on because I've actually worked in many of these, I think in all of these fields back in my technical history. New work looking at low Earth orbit satellites and the ability for small satellite constellations to deliver new capabilities. Opportunities for smart lighting to deliver more power efficient and more effective urban lighting, and telepresence, thinking beyond autonomy and remote control, but thinking about how we can start to control robots at distance, and think about the future of the play that will have for both industry and civilian applications. I mentioned education. One of the things that we launched this year was the Try Engineering STEM portal. Well, we did a survey a year ago simply looking at all of the activities across IEEE focused on K through 12 education. There was an enormous amount of effort, but very little coordination among them. And so this is a mechanism by which we can share best practices, connect activities around the world. And so folks don't have to reinvent things. They can look at what other chapters, sections, regions are doing and help to build a local engagement with STEM communities. And I encourage folks to take a look at the site. We've also been, to help seed this site, offered grants to groups around the world, IEEE groups that were doing STEM activities. And I note that among the awardees were groups from Region 1. And I think this is a great way to with a small amount of money, be able to capture and expand the scale and scope of our STEM work. One of the other things we've been doing on the education side, we saw an enormous demand as education went virtual during COVID for a place that educators could come together to talk about how they could conduct engineering education in new ways, how they could make virtual labs, how they could better engage students remotely, how they could do assessments of students when they weren't physically present. And so we've created this Teaching Excellence Hub as a way to share educational techniques from professor to professor, from educator to educator, to think about things like technologies in the classroom, about application of cutting edge educational research. And there has been just an amazing and enormous pickup of the site. It really is, I think, meeting an important demand. If it's of interest to you, this is a joint effort between our educational activities volunteer group and the IEEE Education Society. We've just recently launched a platform for volunteering opportunities, and I encourage geo units, regions, societies to take advantage of this. This is a great way to advertise. If you have things that you want to do, to connect members to tasks. Traditionally, we've been focused on officer roles and nomination appointments, and people sign up for a long-term role. But there are many jobs in IEEE which are shorter term. I need help on something for a conference. I need somebody to help me test a website. This is ways to get people to engage in, if you will, micro-volunteering by advertising tasks to see if we can find volunteers who can fit that into their busy schedules. It's a way to kind of break up work and get more people engaged with the activities of IEEE. I was going to quickly mention a few things about IEEE USA. One of the big pieces of news coming out of Washington in the last few weeks has been this over $1 trillion infrastructure bill that passed the U.S. Senate back in early August. That bill has had IEEE USA has had remarkable influence on that bill. When you look at the language that's in that bill on electric vehicle infrastructure, on power grid updates, and on enhancing broadband, particularly for rural areas in America, you can see the influence of IEEE's white papers and of the direct questions that came to us to help explain technology and technology opportunity from staffers and members of Congress. And I think we often don't see the conversation that IEEE USA is engaged in with our legislators often is happening kind of behind the scenes, but it's very rare that you see this very clear connection between the work we've done and work that's going to impact probably every American, and particularly impact the engineering and research community. Also, IEEE USA has a series of upcoming meetings. If you're not familiar with the EVO conference series, these are free virtual online meetings focused on students and professionals in terms of engaging and improving your career. There's been a two-part session for students this year. The second part will occur on the 3rd of November. And on the 1st of September, EVO Pro, which is focused on practicing professionals, has a lineup of very interesting speakers. I encourage you to take a look at that conference online at the website link below. And then finally, I hope that everyone's had a chance to see these. These are 30-second advertisements that IEEE USA has been running on television stations around the country, on streaming services, and on other platforms, on cable news and other channels. These are short interstitials that talk about the impact that IEEE has had on individual careers. And I am very excited about these. I think this is a great way to engage people about IEEE. It's a very positive message. And this was done at very, very low cost. I'm not going to take the time to show it, but if there's one thing I encourage you to kind of click on, it's the link to these videos. Take a look at My Competitive Edge campaign, how IEEE offers individuals a competitive edge in their careers. IEEE Day is our day where we celebrate the founding of IEEE. It's 5th of October this year. One of the things we're focused on this year is trying to do more in the United States. This tends to be a big event in Latin America, in Europe, and Asia. It's not such a big deal in the US. it's difficult to kind of engage virtually, but we're encouraging folks to think about ways to engage and celebrate IEEE Day as a worldwide community. I am now wrapping up. We just recently published the IEEE annual reports. These include all the financial data and a summary of key events from across the year. It's a major effort and serves as a culmination and wrap up, both from a business perspective and from a member activity perspective of the year. I worked directly with President Fukuda in preparing this report, and it's available on the link here. And the IEEE Foundation also has just published their annual report of giving and work that the charitable activity of the IEEE Foundation conducts. All right, so this has been now a very strange 18 months, but I think that IEEE has managed to find its way in the complex environment of the pandemic. I think we've adopted technology to engage our members. I see enormous, in fact, kind of outstanding numbers on our virtual activity. So there's an appetite for engagement in IEEE activities. I recognize that this is getting old and we'd all like to see each other, but in person. But I think that given the constraints we have, I am very pleased with the enormous effort that's been done by volunteers, supported by IEEE staff around the world to keep IEEE relevant and active during this complex time. And I'm hoping that we're going to see an emergence from this pandemic here in the coming months. And I'm hoping that will be a time of refresh, reinvigoration, and re-energization across IEEE. So again, thank you all for the opportunity to talk to you today. I'm sorry I ran a few minutes long, but I hope that this is of interest in terms of getting a sense of just a bigger scope of activities across IEEE. Again, I'm always available to anyone. I'm available by email, phone. I'm happy to answer questions in chat today. And I don't know if we have any time for questions. I'll turn it back to Ed. Thanks.
Yeah, we will. I think it's important. If you have a question for Steve, let's make a little time for that. We don't get Steve every time, so we are actually quite pleased to have a bit of his time. So if you have any question from Steve, please do so now. Put it on the chat. And
Ed,
yes.
Kate Duncan has signed on if you want to back up into her presentation.
Yes, well, she will come up. She will come on right after Steve. So questions for Steve? Well, seeing none.
That's great. Again, I'm always available to folks. Happy to follow up on anything, and I'll be here for the rest of the meeting. So thanks.
Stephen, thank you very much. We always feel that's very important for the larger IEEE and certainly my section officers to see the broadness and all the things that are happening and all the places they can go and all the resources we can have in our larger organization. So thank you very much.
Sorry, Steve, I do have one quick question. Yes. So the small groups that you mentioned, the 3 projects, the satellites and so on, is that engineers getting together and coming up with new technology?
Yes, so we're looking to find places where new and emerging technologies can find a home in IEEE. And so within those groups, folks who are working in those fields can now find each other. And so that's the real goal of these groups, is to provide an organizing mechanism for meetings, conferences, publications, for educational activities around these emerging topics. And so we've done this before, for example, in areas like green ICT. IEEE had a major focus area on emerging technologies around brain science, which significantly advanced the field, and major U.S. and international programs in that space. We have a volunteer committee that looks at emerging technologies, receives briefings and proposals, and these new areas were selected this year as emerging topics where there's strong community interest in convening.
Got it. That's great. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. And we have one from Bala, which says, how did the publication business buying and selling impact the large and newer IEEE publication business?
How did the buying and selling? I'm not sure I followed that.
Bala?
The buying and selling refers to the independent publication company that IEEE bought several years back and sold it about 2
Yeah.
years back.
Yeah.
And
So
what was the thought process then, and what is the thought process now, and why is the current thought process more relevant or more to the context?
right. Uh, we had again, prior to my arrival at IEEE, we had IEEE had purchased a for-profit company that was largely an advertising company with some hope of being able to grow that. Those hopes weren't realized. That company suffered significant losses over several years, and to avoid further losses to IEEE, we found we put that up on for auction. We found a buyer for that company, and IEEE closed last year on the sale of that investment. That limits any further losses, and it recovered some of the investment we'd made in it, and eliminated a large number of potential liabilities for IEEE. We made that sale at the very beginning of the pandemic, which turned out to be kind of a just perfect timing to get out of it. It would have been a real storm last year if we were still owning that company. I think it's a challenge the board to think harder about whether they'll make investments in the future in for-profit companies that might not be as aligned with IEEE's core activities. I can certainly say that we're not thinking about doing anything like that at the moment. Our core publication activities, though, I think are continuing to be enormously in demand. We're seeing a very strong appetite from consortiums, universities, companies around the world for IEEE's publication products. The death of the publication business has been predicted for some time, but it's that hasn't happened certainly in the last 12 months. We've seen very strong interest in what IEEE does, and it reflects the quality and I think the relevance of the work that IEEE publishes. We're an incredibly selective publisher. The acceptance rates at our least selective journals, we reject over 80% of what's offered to us. And so the things that actually make it into an IEEE publication are important, and I think that's reflected in the continued interest in what we do.
So thank you. I will take no more questions as we move on to the agenda. Okay, so now we have the ability to go back and bring some of the folks on. So the next person is Kate. Are you ready for us?
Yes, I am. I
Thank you.
sent my slides. Will you be presenting them, or?
Greg, do you have it? I think the answer is yes from Greg once he gets to it. So there it is.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so now we will have Kate, who is the current president of IEEE USA, and he will give us another view of IEEE, but very much a national view of IEEE and all the important things IEEE USA is doing. So Kate, thank you for being here, and take it away.
All right, good morning. Thank you, Ed, for inviting me. I'm pleased to join you this morning. If you would, next slide, please. I'm pleased to join you this morning to briefly share some of the information about IEEE USA's current activities and potential ways Region 1 volunteers and members can collaborate with IEEE USA. For those not familiar with IEEE USA, we are the part of IEEE that acts like your national society for US members. I know most of you that are on this WebEx are pretty familiar with IEEE USA, but I'll give you some of the highlights of what we've been doing lately. But for those that are unfamiliar, we provide members a host of career and professional development products and services through events like EVO. Steve Welby just talked a little bit about EVO, but I'll give you a little bit more detail about EVO. We serve as your voice in Washington to advance interests of the engineering profession and to help policymakers address technically complex public policy issues. We capture this in our slogan, IEEE USA, Building Careers and Advancing Public Policy. But one of the most important points I'd like to tell you today is I'd like for you to take away from today's presentation is that IEEE USA can help regions and sections support local professional activities. We no longer have PACE, but we still encourage the sections and the regions to reach out to us to help you with any sort of professional activities. Next slide, please. So today I'm going to provide you highlights from the 2021 Congressional Visits Day. I'll discuss some major tech legislation that's been going on in our Congress and what we've been advocating for. One of the important bills was the infrastructure bill, and another one is the PRO Act, and a couple of other really important activities that our government relations have been doing. Next slide, please. Our slogan, IEEE USA, Building Career and Advancing Public Policy, starts with advancing public policy. Our annual IEEE USA Congressional Visits Day was virtualized this year. CVD involves participation in arranged meetings. This year it was virtual. They're typically local visits to your local congressman, and you typically talk on selected topics of R&D and innovation. This year we had 189 participants from 38 states, 150% increase in participation from last year. We conducted the pre-training virtually over 3 weeks to prepare the participants on the topics to be discussed with their legislators. Next slide, please. So on June 8th, the Senate passed what previously was called the Endless Frontiers Act, now called the U.S. Innovation and Competitive Act. This bill authorizes $195 billion in federal distributions to enhance U.S. technologies and competitiveness. This bill provides significant support for revitalization of semiconductor industry, broadband deployment, advanced manufacturing. This bill basically establishes the funds and funds the new tech directorate at the National Science Foundation. So this is one bill that IEEE USA has been advocating for some time now. Next slide, please. So the next big policy that we've been advocating for is the infrastructure bill. The Senate voted on August 10th to pass the infrastructure bill. This invests in $550 billion in new federal spending on infrastructure projects, including transportation infrastructure and other critical national infrastructure. IEEE USA worked with legislators to craft this bill and champion the provisions that were authorized in terms of funding electric vehicle infrastructure, upgrades to the U.S. power grid, enhancing broadband infrastructure as well. The bill's broadband funding provides every American with access to reliable high-speed internet. It also increases the minimum federal standard for the broadband service. So very impactful to all Americans. You know, we meaning IEEE USA has been working tirelessly to you know, advocate for a lot of these issues. Next slide, please. The next act, the PROS Act, it's intended to make it easier for workplaces to unionize, but also redefines who an employee is. There are concerns with the PRO Act, like this act would not allow consultants to provide services to companies whose employees provide similar service, such as software consultants, for example. They could not consult for a company that produces software. The PRO Act has passed the House and is waiting for votes in the Senate. where it currently has 46 senators, I believe, that are co-sponsors. Next slide, please. IEEE USA proposed and helped write the bill for Senators Portman and Bennett. This bill was introduced on May 26th and is pending review by the Senate Committee by Small Business and Entrepreneurship. This bill authorizes federal support for industry participation in international standards organizations for developing global standards for technologies like artificial intelligence and other emerging technologies. Next slide. So this year I stood up an ad hoc related to public policy. It was intended for workforce. This workforce committee is chaired by Dan Moore. This ad hoc is broken into two working groups, looking at policy issues related to academic and private sector work concerns impacting IEEE USA members, a draft update to the IEEE USA position statement on employment-based immigration reform is one work product of this committee. There's a position statement on federal support for technical workforce development that's actually being developed as well. So this ad hoc was really concerned with any sort of immigration issues that our members might have. And I'm hoping that Deb Cooper will continue this because it is creating a dialogue within this committee. And I know this is an issue with Region 1 that our members are actually concerned with is immigration issues. So next slide, please. So on the other side of what IEEE USA does, we help build our members' careers. IEEE USA offers a wide range of career and professional development related products and services targeted at members in all segments and stages of their career life cycle. Our goal is to help members maintain their professional vitality and provide tools to help manage their career like a business. Some of the products from our careers are webinars, ebooks, and these webinars and ebooks are related to career topics to enhance the careers of our membership. Next slide, please. So this is just an example of some of our webinars, but this is our primary product, webinars, ebooks, and audiobooks. And these are prepared by subject matter experts on a host of topics. We offer new resources each month. We have several hundred titles on a wide array of topics in our ebooks, and our webinar catalog is available on the IEEE USA website, and they're free to all IEEE members. Webinar participation has been increasing, most likely due to COVID, but I think our members are beginning to participate on a regular basis in our webinars. Next slide, please. EVO is something Steve Welby also talked about a little bit, but I'll give you a little bit more depth in terms of EVO. EVO is an evolution of the IEEE USA annual conference. The EVO conference is targeted at younger and mid-career professionals and are designed with a focus on developing leadership skills that will position our members for full career success. In 2021, we're planning to hold 3 EVO events, all virtual. The first was on June 18th. Our next will be on September 1st. Next slide, please. EVO 1 was a virtual conference held on June 16th. Our first of the year in a series of 3 events. This event was targeted at student members and young professionals. The event featured talks by some very well-known people in robotics, augmented reality or virtual reality, and a TV personality. We've archived this event. You can click on that link and watch EVO 1. Next slide, please. Our next event, EVO Pro, we have a couple of keynote speakers, and the registration is, there's a link on this page for registration. This event is really geared toward our mid-career professionals, really again focused on leadership skills. And again, you can click on the link on the bottom of the page and register. It's September 1st, and it's a free event to all members. Next slide, please. IEEE USA conducts an annual survey of the US members. The 2021 employment report was based on 6,000 plus members. This survey was conducted in January. It was just released. And again, this is another output from our career side, and it's free to all members. Next slide, please. Our competitive edge videos. This initiative was developed by past president Tom Coughlin. IEEE USA, MGA, and the Computer Society partnered, and they're continuing these My Competitive Edge videos. The marketing campaign was approximately 120K, and the new ads were placed this summer. The campaign highlights for IEEE members, explaining how IEEE is their competitive edge. Some of the target markets are Atlanta, Austin, Charlotte, Minneapolis, New York, Orlando, San Francisco. Ads are going to appear on ESPN, Discovery, History Channel, Comedy Channel. Initially, the campaign ads ran in December of 2020 in Austin, Denver, San Francisco, Seattle. But again, we have a link here where you can actually view these videos. We're taking some statistics to try and see how successful this is at not only just raising awareness for IEEE, but driving membership. Next slide, please. So IEEE hosted a virtual town hall with the IEEE USA candidates on August 11th. We've archived this as well. So I'm not certain if Region 1 had their own sort of town hall, but IEEE USA did, and you can go to this link and review this presidential candidate town hall. Next slide, please. IEEE USA, their awards ceremony was streamed live on August 18th, so just this past Wednesday. This event was recorded, and as well, we have a link down at the bottom. This is actually a very important event for IEEE USA to recognize our volunteers and our members for all the good work they do throughout the year. Next slide. So we need your nominations. We ask for your help in identifying US IEEE members interested in, both volunteering and serving on the USA board. Next slide, please. IEEE USA keeps their social media up to date, so you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all these different social media platforms. We also have a website. All these, if you download these slides, all these icons are live links to our social media platforms. You can also get a digital subscription to our newsletters and all. Next slide, please. So if you have questions focused on specific areas of what IEEE USA does, or if you have an ask from us, please reach out to us. The top name in each of these categories is our volunteer, and then the second name is our staff lead. So in careers, Mark Torres is our volunteer VP of careers. David Imes is the staff support. Brendan Godfrey is our communications VP. John Uklensky is our staff lead, and so on. So please do ask. Next slide, please. So again, I want to thank you, Ed, for having me come and speak. In closing, again, let me just thank all the volunteers for all the efforts that you do for our membership. And again, the takeaway for today is that IEEE USA can help regions and sections support local professional activities and can assist in advancing public policy. So again, thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Kate. Do we have any questions for Kate? We can take, a couple of questions. We're on time.
I don't have a question, and I'll hold off if anybody does. I would just like to add a remark, but I'll wait in case anyone else has a question. Okay.
So add your remark now while we're waiting.
In that case, I'll throw my 2 cents in, and that's about Congressional Visits Day. Please understand something. First of all, CVD is open to all members, not just the section leadership, but all IEEE members, and that includes students. It is incredibly important. We recognize the fact that members of Congress are not always going to do what we'd like them to do, but to put it in blank terms, if you don't tell them what's important, it's a total crapshoot. And I'm not happy playing craps with the government. So please, it's incredibly important that you go down and you speak with your representative, your senator, and others that who interest you, because you'll be invited to certainly to the meetings of your 2 senators and your representative, but you'll go to other meetings as well. And it's really important that they understand what is important to the constituents, because they want to be reelected, among other things. Please do it. And it's a very satisfying thing. I've been doing it since 2013. And sometimes I've been down there more than once a year on a couple of years, and it's really a very interesting and rewarding experience. Please participate.
And I know that the Herbert Hoover campaign was kind of tough for you, but
Yeah, my biggest problem was getting to DC back then. The horse and buggy wasn't very fast.
all right.
No, Pete, I appreciate you making that comment, because I've had issues participating. I've always been a little concerned because I work for the government, which, I've asked my legal and folks like that, and it's not an issue for even government folks to participate. I participated this year, and I got a call back from my representatives. They wanted to have further discussion with me. So our voices do matter. Our representatives do care about what we say. And the only way to have impact is to actually participate in CVD.
I have a question.
Go ahead. Who's this?
This is Bob Pellegrino, New York section. So I'm also the PACE chair, and I'm curious as to why IEEE USA eliminated the PACE chair or PACE meetings. I used to go to the meetings and bring back all of the information learned at these meetings back to the section XCOM and the section members. So it seems like that's not there anymore for section people
So,
or chapter.
So Bob, that was financial. IEEE USA is funded based on assessments by higher grade members. And with the loss of membership, we've had a decline year over year for the past 20 years. You know, there's an issue with funding for activities like that. And in 2017, we made a decision to sunset that program. But as I keep saying, you know, ask if there is a big activity that you'd like, or even if it's not a big activity, make the ask. You can make the ask through your region director, or you can reach out to the careers VP or someone in the, you know, in the region can make the ask to IEEE USA for support.
Okay, thanks, Kate.
Yep.
Whereas PACE has been at the large IEEE, and it is a budgetary issue, and I sit on that board, and we spent an awful lot of time looking at these things. But be aware, the region put this year over $12,000 for PACE activities at the regional level to try to continue that within the region. But yes, as we are, one of the biggest issues we're facing within IEEE USA is the issue of our funding and our funding streams.
So if there's any other questions, I'll be here for the rest of the meeting as well. So please do reach out to me.
All right, so we're still on time. So I've been told that we have the ability to see the president-elect's video. Greg, are you there?
I'm gonna try this. See, all right, let's try it again. Can you guys hear that?
Yes, we did. Let's do the voodoo that you do.
Okay, I'm gonna let this roll.
Hello everyone, I am Ray Liu and I have the great privilege to serve as the 2021 IEEE President-elect of the IEEE. I want to share a warm welcome to all of the participants. For those of you who are already IEEE members, thank you. I am honored to be your colleague. Let me share my vision with you. For those of you who are not, perhaps my brief following remarks will provide you with some insight into what IEEE does, what it can do for you, and what we can accomplish together. Do you know IEEE is no longer the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineering? It is simply IEEE. My vision is to make it simply your professional home. It is the home of engineers, scientists, technologists, practitioners, and entrepreneurs who form the community of IEEE. Our members are experts from the highest echelons of industry and academia and are in every vital area of technologies, spanning almost every area one can think of. Our members are computer scientists and electrical, mechanical, and electronic engineers. They are physicists and biologists who use our tool in their daily work. They are entrepreneurs and marketeers who build their business on our technologies. They are technicians who demonstrate their proficiency through their technical works. And they are teachers who share their knowledge with their students of science and technologies. Long gone are the days when a technologist can count on lifelong employment with a single company. My plan is to build IEEE to be our members' home base, the home for your entire career, to help you with career growth through continuing learning and skill training, job opportunities that offer better career and professional opportunities, mentoring by connecting you with respected colleagues who can guide you and work with you, and peer networking by building a strong sense of community. In IEEE, your professional home, we have suites of product and service, including publications, conference, lifelong learning opportunities, society and council, section and chapter, and standards. all available for our members to personalize to meet their desired needs. From when you first join IEEE as a student member until retirement, this professional home offers the product and service required for every stage of your career. IEEE can help ensure you have successful career development with great prospects even when changing jobs. Through the continual learning of practical content and training of new skills relevant to your work to advance your career, IEEE not only provides technology tools, but also personal connections that can help mentor and nurture your career path. Most important, IEEE help professionals grow their soft skills, such as leadership and the ability for cross-disciplinary collaborations. In essence, IEEE offers you a whole new way of thinking and self-knowledge to consider while advancing along your career path, and for you to use throughout your life. IEEE is a community of career support and professional growth with worldwide network. IEEE is your professional home. I encourage all of today's participants, IEEE members and non-members, to engage with IEEE's activity and initiatives, inspire participation from fellow colleagues, and maximize all that your IEEE membership does for you, for our professional communities, and for the benefit of humanity. Thank you. I wish you all a successful event. Please take care of yourself and each other.
Worthwhile video. I'm glad we were able to see it together. Okay, so now we're a little bit ahead of schedule. So let me suggest we do the following. Let's take a quick 10-minute break. Let's come back at 11:50. I mean at 10:50, and let's get on with the next presentation, which I believe will be Mikey. So let me just see. Let's make sure. Could you put up the agenda, please? I think we are on track. So, okay, so let's take a quick minute break. We will be 10 minutes early, so let's get back at 10:50, please. Okay, see you all in 10. Are you back, Greg? Ah, thank you.
Yes, I am.
Greg, I'm happy to share from here.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
We
so
don't have the, then we don't have the next slide in the.
It's yours. I
all
would
right,
prefer
so
that.
let's give it a minute or so, and then we'll I'll introduce you and we'll boogie woogie oogie till we just can't boogie no more. I don't have people who smile. I have no idea why this region doesn't smile.
Actually, Steve Welby did and you did.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because you haven't sung yet. Oh, no, that would be a laugh. No, oh, sorry. Actually, you're a much better singer than I am, so they would be crying if I sang. So you should see
All
that as
right, so I'll do karaoke for you as part of my past director duties next year.
I was just gonna say, are you gonna sing at the end of this meeting?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Everybody doesn't realize this, but this is a worldwide known talent.
That Palacio sings at meetings?
If you'd like to end the meeting early, just have me sing. I'll drive everybody offline.
I think
So,
that will be good motivational.
So
we're
I will
looking,
give you a the secret Palacio formula, which is take the meetings very, very, very seriously and the content very, very seriously and smile a lot in the process. It works really well. Right? People remember you and they remember your message.
So as a point of reference, Ed,
Mhm.
the Women in Engineering Forum that we have annually, that will be next year in Providence, has a group sing where we have a song which has been converted to include the word we as a theme, and We Are Family, for example, WIE, et cetera, and the entire organizing committee gets up on stage and joins me in singing.
All right. Well, if I get an invite,
It should
I
be
get an
We Will
invite, I'll
Rock.
boogie. All right. I have to tell you, I absolutely miss us being together. It has been a tough, tough 2 years. I miss seeing the regional folks. I have not had any time where I have been able to meet and sit and talk, and same thing at the MGA and the IEEE USA and IEEE board. It's been a tough 2 years. Okay, we're back, and we have Enki Lukin, Vice President and Chair of IEEE Member Geographic Activities, and we will hear that portion of the briefing again. This is very apropos to us because, as the title said, it is about the regions and regional activities and member activities. So, Mikey, take it away.
well, thank you very much, and it's a great pleasure to be here, Ed. And I just would like to put everybody on notice. Ed said I could take as much time as I like. So if I'm going over, it's all Ed's fault, okay? Okay, so I'm taking a page here from Steve Melby's playbook, IEEE's core mission, and try to start out from here, to foster technological innovation excellence for the benefit of humanity. With all the IP we have, with all the volunteers, with all the human resources, and so on. So with this core mission, we have a strategic plan for IEEE. And over the last year, MGA has developed a new strategic plan, and it was approved in June. And I go into a couple of details after. But right now, what you're seeing is you are the very first group who sees the graphic representation of the new MGA strat plan. I will go over some of the details on the next slides because this is a little bit of an eye chart. So the changes that we made as we discussed the strategic plan and the update to it is to really focus on the members' growth and development through the members' life cycle, to extend the wording of our selves in terms of our professional affiliations from engineers to engineers, scientists, and technologists. We also extended the invitation or the support to serve communities globally. So employ technologies to serve communities globally and invite external individuals, organizations, and industry to engage with IEEE for the benefit of humanity. So the scope is a little bit broadened from the previous version of the MGA strategic plan. Another item that is new is that the volunteer engagement has been emphasized and pulled out separately as a key component of IEEE's success. Steve was already talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. In the IEEE, in the MGA strat plan, it is called promote diversity and inclusion. So maybe one of these days we have to update this and include equity in this phrase. So it is part of our strategic plan to really promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, strengthen the relevance of IEEE to industry, encourage non-member participation and collaboration, and on the operational side to make access to IEEE resources easier for the members and prospective members by providing a simple, consistent, personalized interface. That's a pretty tall order. We don't have that done yet, but we are working on it. So that is the update to the strat plan. I'd like to now look at IEEE as the MGA ecosystem and just to show you a few numbers that you might not be aware of. So yes, we are around 400,000 members. Over 50% of our members are society members. We operate in 160 countries. You know, we have 10 regions, 10 divisions, 39 societies, 7 technical councils. In the order of 342 sections, this might be more now. This was January 21. I think we might have approved 1 or 2 more sections in June, or subsections at least in Region 10. We have over 2,500 chapters and over 700 affinity groups. And now come the really big numbers, and that is about 3,500 student branches and close to 3,000 student branch chapters and affinity groups. So in total, we have more than 10,000 OUs, almost 11,000 at this stage. From these groups, we have about 22,000 reported volunteers to the Office of Reporting. Now, that's not all the volunteers. If you have a section, you might be reporting 4 officers, but you might have 15 volunteers or 20 volunteers working in the section. So that's why I'm trying to say here that we have 22,000 reported volunteers, plus all the local volunteers in these more than 10,000 OUs. Hence, the key to success for IEEE are those volunteers who are the main drivers of member engagement. And what do they do? Well, in MGA, we work on local networking interaction events, so local engagement with members and community members, career enhancement, volunteering, which is, and somebody corrected me the other day, soft skill development is probably not the right word to use anymore. We should call it essential skill development. Okay, so I will update this. But we always fall into this trap of using words that we have used for a long time. So volunteering is a major way of developing essential career skills. So what have we been focusing on in terms of developing some of the programming in MBAs this year? So we do have a working group that is shared by Lens Fung on ethics and misconduct. So in IEEE at the board level, we have approved a new system where people, members or non-members, can essentially voice a complaint against other IEEE members. And this system essentially needs to be interfaced with the various OUs if the complaint is a complaint that is related to that OU. So it could be with publications, it could be with an NGA type volunteer complaint. So this working group is trying to ensure that our processes in NGA are fully aligned with the approved new processes by the IEEE board. Then we've got some MGA ad hoc committees, one on region realignment that's now shared by Celia Desmond, one on MGA digital strategy that's shared by Gerardo Barbosa, and is a parallel ad hoc to the equivalent one in TA that's shared by Don Tan. Jim Jeffries is continuing to share an ad hoc on implementation of Sections Congress 2020 recommendations. Loreto Aronano is continuing the ad hoc on the future of Sections Congress. And Deepak Mathur has kindly volunteered to share an ad hoc on the MGA surplus allocation process that reports to the MGA FinCom. Then we have joint ad hoc committees. One of them is on improving chapter support, joined with TA, and is co-chaired by Gilles Gostin and Bob Rassa. And we have the IEEE and Sustainable Development, joint ad hoc with SA, TA, EA, Humanitarian Activities Committee, IEEE USA, and is co-chaired by Ed. Thank you, Ed. Rob Fish and Bruno Meyer. There's a joint working group on local groups. It's essentially led by Kostas Stasopoulos, John Verbonker from TA, Roger Fuji, the TA VP, and myself. And on behalf of the IEEE Board of Directors, I'm sharing the Members and Dues Committee. So those are kind of the main activities in terms of committees that are going on. In terms of focus areas, of course, there is the pivoting and adapting to the challenge due to the pandemic, and also post-pandemic, because I think a big opportunity is here for us to look at what we have learned during the pandemic and how we can take those learnings and operationalize them in the future for the benefit of our organization and members. I'm not sure whether you heard regarding Sections Congress. The Sections Congress 2023 has been approved for August in Ottawa, Canada. We, of course, finished the 2021 Sections Congress, and that's now complete. I'll have a few more words to say about that. And we're still working, of course, on the implementation of the recommendations. Next Generation Finance, Next Gen Finance is taking a big chunk of volunteer and staff efforts, has been for quite some time, and it's now been rolled out in various phases. So I think Steve was already mentioning a couple of things about that, so I'm not going to get into details. Focus overall in MGA is on strengthening member and non-member participant and volunteer engagement in whatever we do, in particular at the local level, enabling the volunteers through better tools, and those focus areas are to a large extent expressed in the priority projects. And I believe CJ will be talking a bit more about the priority projects, but this is the type of chart that we roll out in MGA every year. The projects have funding associated with them, and they're executed, implemented through collaboration between volunteers and staff members. And so you see here, like 3 to 5 years due is the Sections Congress. Dues is a Sections Congress recommendation. You see a tool inventory, volunteer engagements, the vAssist private, vAssist virtual assist pilot, and so on. Okay, so let's talk about some of the initiatives that have been carried out and their impact. So as the pandemic did not finish within 2 or 3 months, like some people had hoped, in November last year, MGA got the approval from the board to essentially move forward with a 50% discount for all the student dues for up to 3 years. So this came into effect. It was through a coupon in mid-December, and up to now about 35,500 students have used this promotion code. Some students, of course, had already renewed, so they were encouraged to get a credit that was applied to the 2022 dues. The result of this code is vastly differing around the globe. India essentially makes up 50% of the overall response. Region 10 accounts to about 65% of the response. The US regions account for just 10%. And Canada is, like Region 7, is performing similarly. I have a couple of more numbers on the next slide for you afterwards. So the result is that student recruitment is really up about 12% year over year. And the retention rate is up by more than 50%, which is significant because the students are our future. This is very significant for our organization. What we also see, because the student discount coupon is not just for undergraduate students, it's also for graduate students, that the young professionals numbers are up and that the women in engineering numbers are up. And they're up due to the students because women engineering is charged separately, has a fee associated of $25 for professional members, but no fee for student members. So if a student renews and is interested in women engineering, they just click or signs up, click a box, and they are members of women engineering. So we see this increase in women engineering and young professionals as well. One of the societies bought into this promotion. The Computer Society increased by about 800 students. And I'd just like to encourage you very strongly, all of you, to work towards using this Future 50 coupon rollout for 2022. That is going to start in September with a full promotion plan. But you can start now because the kit, the information is at this link where at the brand experience link. And so you can post it on your websites and tweet and et cetera, et cetera. Having only 10% take up in the US and in like in North America overall, really shows us that there must be a huge opportunity to better the uptake as we are hopefully returning to face-to-face education. So one of the reasons that I just implied indirectly that we think the uptake is not there in North America is because most of the universities and colleges were had moved to online education, and hence there was not much interest by the students in IEEE. Another reason that may very well have contributed significantly as well is that many foreign students are not in North America this year or last year. They did not return to campus in September last year. So it'd be very interesting to see how those numbers shift over the next 8 months. Just to show you the trends of student members and graduate student members, by country. So India is between 2010 and 2020. Not actually, like, I'm not sure how much the impact of the pandemic is here, but it's certainly there because, to a certain extent, because it goes to December 31st, 2020, the data. But I'm not sure how much, what exactly the trend was before 2020. But overall, India is up about 10% and the US is down 31%. China is up largely. Canada is down 11.8%, so we're roughly 12%. And all the other major countries are all up, the countries with the most membership. So I think we need to really seriously look at why the student membership has been declining in North America, and whether this is solely caused by the pandemic or whether there are other reasons, and see how we can countermand this. Okay, let's talk about some highlights. Oh, just a sec, one other point. We have another DOOS campaign, and that relates to the graduating student who becomes now a professional. So somebody who is finished being a student, graduate student or student, and continues IEEE membership as a full professional. So as most of you know, in the first year, if it is a directly continued membership, these young professionals have a discount of 50%. So in its second year, we have a discount of 25% for the second year of professional membership. And we want to see whether that will increase the retention of those young professionals. So you may also talk to your students and say, look, this is a good time to continue being an IEEE member right away, because you can take advantage of the 50% discount in the first year and a 25% discount in the second year. Okay, now let's talk about highlights. I mentioned Sections Congress already, and I'll have a couple more words to say about that. Then the Ieee International Leadership Conference online. Again, had a very good participation due to the online method of conference delivery, because quite a few people apparently came who would otherwise not have been able to join. I mentioned the strategic plan, talked about the next gen finance modules, and the Future 50 discount campaign. Many more highlights could be mentioned in the affinity groups, the sections, in the branches, and overall, many groups have been taking advantage of the online communication to invite people globally to their local events, for example. So the Sections Congress was under the tagline of leading our global technical community, and was very well executed. And I'd like to just share a couple of suggestions, like train, learn, mentor, find a mentor, meet locally, invite others, have fun. I will leave the slide with you. And I'd like to quote Ed, that's the very last line here: consider the power of the ask if you're looking for volunteers. All the sessions are available in the Center for Leadership Excellence. There are some terrific recordings there. So please take advantage of these recorded sessions and maybe use them here and there to train new volunteers. So the focus really for essentially all of us is to grow the impact of IEEE's mission. And that is actually engagement through a common purpose, or as engagement through a common purpose that works best. So we're leading our global technical community to deliver on IEEE's mission. And the best way to do that is to find alignment between our target audience and the mission of IEEE and our values in order to have this goal in common. So as I was listening to the Sections Congress presentations, it really occurred to me that we maybe really should talk about how we learn about the value of our target audience, how we find out about their interests and about their needs. And maybe we sometimes don't spend enough time doing that, because only when we do that can we align our delivery with the value and the needs and the wants of the target audience. And if we cannot find an alignment between IEEE's mission and core values with that target audience, then maybe that is not our target audience. I think we really need to understand our audience. We need to be aware what the greater good is that we're trying to achieve between us and the target audience, and understand the regional, global, and local trends that are the larger context. And so that way we can grow our target audience and grow IEEE's impact. Of course, that means that we have to know what all these megatrends are and what our context is and the challenges and opportunities. So we're all aware of the COVID-19 pandemic. IEEE itself faces other changes, and that is open access publishing and changes in conferences. Then we have global trends associated with ICT, the cyber infrastructure, threats, data governance, the digital divide. There are other disruptive technologies coming around, every once in a while, and change things greatly for us. And then there is a challenge of sustainable development. We see it. We see climate change, severe weather. We have the big challenge of achieving decarbonization, net zero carbon emissions by 2050. Around the world, the access to resources varies phenomenally for electricity, water, healthcare, education, general resources. The UN has postulated sustainable development goals to be achieved by 2030 to address some of these, or most of these, differing levels of access to resources, expressed as to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure prosperity for all. And why do I bring this up? Well, most of these sustainable development goals require ICT. Chief in the middle is number 7, affordable and clean energy. That is IEEE's wheelhouse. So IEEE developed IP. IEEE and its members developed IP and knowledge. Essentially, is essential for just about every single one of these sustainable development goals. So what is the role then of IEEE and its members? I think very firmly believe that applying our knowledge, projecting our voice, and building our envisioned future, that is our role for each individual and as an organization. So I'd like to share a call to action for us to make a difference that counts for humanity, for our community, for your family and friends, for IEEE and yourself. And let's never forget that collaborating, cooperating, and partnering usually gets us more than 1 + 1 is 2. Usually it is 3, 4, 5. I don't know how many times the impact as individuals working alone. All of this to foster technological innovation and excellence for the benefit of humanity. We at IEEE take the I am out of the word impossible to make the better world possible. So I'm calling on you to lead the way, because it's our mission and our future, and because together we can and will build a brighter future for all. And just by being here, you are building it now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mikey. Do we have questions for Mike? Do we have a few minutes?
I just had one quick one, Mikey. With Sections Congress in 2023 in August. Do you have any specific dates?
I'm going to just refer to CJ, but I can certainly get you the dates.
I'd appreciate it only because I shortly have to start planning for this Region 1 meeting in 2023.
Okay.
And I don't want to, get in the way of sections
Yes.
comments.
Yes, certainly will. I should have looked it up. My apologies.
No,
But the contract is being negotiated, so we do have the
Okay.
dates. We do have the dates, yes. I wanted to give you one other thing if you want to afterwards look at the deck, and that is the membership distribution between the different regions. So if you're really interested in membership numbers, you may want to have a look at it, how different regions have different proportions of life members, students, graduate students, and so on.
There is a question by, of course, my treasurer, who says, regarding MGA surplus, are we talking annually in millions and hundreds of $1,000s for allocation purpose? Are these surpluses deliberate and planned in relation to budget? I think that one of the things that the community is doing, that the committee is doing to say, all right, given these, the surplus, there are some rules on how we can deal with surpluses, but I think that is being fully reassessed by the group. But yes, it is a lot of dollar because MGA can run significant surplus. Mikey, would you like to comment on that, or CJ will when she gets on?
So I can do that. Of course, okay, so in some years, MGA generates a surplus, usually not in the Sections Congress years. But there are rules by IEEE that the surplus can be used, and any surplus that, say, for like we are in 2021 right now, MGA did not expend its entire budget last year, so any surplus under the various rules that could be spent would have to be spent on projects that have to be finished by the 31st of December in 21. Now, the issue is that we only find out relatively late into the year what the surplus is, because of course all the books have to be closed and so on. So what we would like to do is come up with a process internal to MGA within the rules that IEEE sets for the handling of surplus, so we can allocate surplus dollars very quickly and determine for what type of project the surplus would potentially be used. Okay, so we have a little subcommittee to look at how to handle surplus in general for MGA, as opposed to when surplus comes available, looking at how we allocate it. So we have a process and don't have to think about the process again. I guess that's the best way to put it.
Okay. So with that, I'll move on to we're back on.
So Ed, I have a comment and a question, if you permit me short.
Sure.
Yeah, this is Irfan Latif, New Jersey Coast section. Mikey, great presentation. And I think you alluded to a point that we need to address the pain points of the audience, our target audience. And unless we bring on the student membership into focus, our general IEEE membership won't grow, because that's where it is. And looking at the student membership challenges, I think we are kind of working on the wrong end of the problem. Students mostly graduating who are looking for jobs. And I think I'm just preaching to the choir. What I think the initiative should do is work with the industry and bring industries into the IEEE fold, who can sponsor and pick up these member students as they graduate. And if that happens year over year, you can publish a number that we have placed 50% of our IEEE student members into the industry. that will be a great motivator for the new students coming in to join IEEE. That's I think is one of the things we could be looking for. So now my question is IEEE NGA looking into actively bringing in industry focus and industry members in who can mentor and take on our student members in opening level jobs?
So, so I have seen it happening at the local level, not as MGA or so. And I've seen it through what we call the STEP program, which has been around for a long time. And it's an event that gets some funding from the young professionals, where you bring together young professionals and students. And at the local level, I've seen many times industry to essentially have a career development event where industry folks talk to the students in small groups after there might have been like a general talk on, how to start out in your new job, and to link these people together. But it is by convening these STEP events that you have a tremendous opportunity to bring those three groups together.
I think that is a good initiative, and that is kind of partially might work where there are large employers and industries. But I think if you look at the national trend and the direction, the 10 largest employers in the country today are Amazon, Google, AWS, Facebook. So we want the biggest employers to be in the fold of IEEE, picking up people from IEEE membership. I think that will generally pull the membership in all sections in general. So we need to work at national level with the top employers, if you will.
Well, we'll give that some thought and see how that could be done. Of course, we do have the opportunity function within Collaboratech, so we could bring people together there as well. Okay. Also understand so that the Microsofts and so on, they go onto university campus and they recruit, whether somebody is IEEE member or not. They recruit very much so.
As Ed and Bob Pellegrino and others know, I am part of the New Jersey section, which is a fast dwindling, scarce commodity. So I'm passionate about growing our membership. So I would be happy to volunteer and help if you have any ideas on that.
Thank you.
If I can add something, I'm Ron Brown. I'm in the main section. We don't have any of those large employers here. Somehow we need to get them to recognize that there's a graduating student body here, and maybe serve them somehow with intern programs. We have a couple semiconductor firms. That's about it. Otherwise, our technology consists mostly of using information technology, and on a good day, they employ 3 engineers. But they're people like LL Bean.
Yeah.
And they're good users of IT. That also, I think, is another area that we can look at it for members. Enough said.
Well, thank you, Ron.
All right, folks.
I think a lot of this crosses over the geographic domains, like people there's a gig economy now. People are really their own brand now. They will have different kinds of jobs, different styles of jobs. And, having the days of having IBM come in and hire, 200 people out of your class are probably not, going to happen as often. And so, for us as a professional organization, we can serve people by helping them to recognize their own personal brand, and to be, independent, to learn how to be an employee wherever they might live, not to move for the job, et cetera, because that's the world we live in now. Just saying.
So what we see that IEEE USA has talked about this. We have seen, we understand, the changing economy. Let me just say though, folks, I suggest that this is a very important discussion, and we could have the rest of the meeting on this. And so I have other things that I need to to get through. The point being made here is that there are multiple places that we can and find. Student Activities has its focus. IEEE USA has its focus. Member Geographic Activities has its focus. They're all trying to find what is the right thing to do within the domain of what we do to be able to, well, serve the members and also attract and keep members, right? So this is if you serve them, you keep them. And so I think that these things are important and comments are important, and we can get them to me, or we can get them to Mikey, or we can get them to the various places. But I suggest that we do that. And of course, volunteers are always accepted in any of these issues. But I would like to move on if I may. And actually, what we're going to listen to now again kind of relates to some of this, because the next person up will be Cecilia Jankowski. We know her very well. She's one of ours for the longest of time, but she's also the managing director of MGA, and will give us another aspect or another view of MGA activities. So CJ, thank you for being here, and you're on.
Yes, I'm very happy to be here. As Ed said, I have been in Region 1 for all of my professional career, and actually have volunteered within some of the sections prior to joining the IEEE staff. So it's a pleasure to be with you all today. Next slide, please. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on every slide because some of these have already been covered. Let me just say that for 2021, relative to membership, we have been in a process of recovering from the pandemic. We have found ourselves really leveraging technology enhancements in the OU analytics, vTools area, use of virtual options for meetings, trying to find ways to connect people virtually. We have had to update our messaging to members. We tended to be somewhat more, I don't want to say sales oriented, but it tended to be somewhat more sales oriented. And to be honest with you, when we came to that pandemic and there was such tragedy and such challenges for all of our members globally, we completely redid the messaging to one of support, providing whatever we could at no cost to members. You've heard Steve Welby talk at various meetings about all that's been done on behalf of COVID and how we leveraged it. And we took advantage of that for members. And it did actually, in our membership, when we're looking at recovery and sort of reinstatement, we have been seeing the benefits of that in our membership. So these are things that we've been doing in real time. And then we've also, Micah just went through a whole host of key MGA focus areas, and we've been actually utilizing those and engaging members in them. Next slide, please. One of the things we do every year is we come up with a list of priority projects, and these are projects that we target to try to support the focus areas. Within MGA, we have two core areas: membership and then geographic units and their vitality. Added to that, we have a group of priority projects that are major IEEE wide and MGA led, and you can see there the rollout of NextGen. Sections Congress went virtual for this year in a training mode, and then really looking at our infrastructure. So the projects that we've been working on collectively with the staff and the volunteers have been focusing on these. Next slide, please. Steve mentioned the membership numbers. These are the end of July numbers, and what we're showing here are the change year over year from July of 2020. We are at a 1.9% increase overall in IEEE membership. You can see the numbers for higher grade, a slight decline, a large increase for undergraduate students, primarily as a result of the Future 50, as well as the graduate student members who also pay student dues rates. Next slide, please. Looking at it visually, just to give you an idea of where we are relative to prior years, you could see the top line there is the 2019 with the small square boxes on it. The 2020 are the circles, which was considerably lower, and we are somewhere in between for 2021 as of end of July. Next slide, please. Looking at the trends for higher grade membership, you can see that again, that is a little bit below the 2020 curve. However, it is tracking month to month. Next slide, please. And here's the student membership, and you can actually see here. After August and going into the September timeframe, some of the increases, and then we've been able to maintain those increases for students, getting close to the 2019 numbers. Next slide, please. We also report out month over month for society membership and standards. You can see the standards membership here and the increase for this month year over year. I want to point out the society membership that has seen a large increase, a 5.5% increase, and many of that is attributed to increases in the students. I will also say, and I'm going to say it on a future slide as well, many of the societies in response to the considerations or in efforts to membership development have actually reduced their society cost for student members. And, to the point where there are several societies that are offering their annual membership for $1 or $4 or $5. And so we are seeing in some cases that these promotions are bringing in the additional student members or graduate student members. Next slide, please. And you can see here that overall society memberships for members, not including affiliates, are trending much higher than in prior years. Next slide, please. So at this point, I sort of want to wish everybody a happy new year. We, as of the end of August, middle of August 15th, by our bylaws, we have officially switched to the 2022 membership year. And as has been mentioned by everybody before me, this is a wonderful time to actually go out and recruit members, recruit student members. Essentially, when a member if they go to our website and join today, they are automatically put up for September membership for 2022, and they will be now members through the end of 2022. So they're effectively getting 16 months of membership for the price of 4. So it's a very good time to do it. This is our schedule for the renewal. We have already opened the site to new joins. The existing members, those of you who all on here, can run to your computers on September 7th and renew your membership for 2022. We will begin our renewal notifications at the end of September. The paper for email, we also will again send out paper for the higher grade members and society affiliates. And then in mid-October, we have our renewal process that runs for those members who have enrolled. There is an existing, I believe there's an existing promotion that went out for new members. I believe it's still on for $10 off if they do sign up for auto renewal. And just to give you an idea of how important this auto renewal cycle is, in 2022, we had 73,000 members. Starting at this point, a year ago, we had 73,000 members who were signed up for auto renewal. And then this year, with the promotion and with growth, we have close to 75,000 members, 74,800 who have signed up for auto renewal. And, the number that sort of falls out of this on an annual basis when we go to actually apply it in October is about 12%. But this by far is one of the best membership tools that we have used. This is, roughly about 25% of our membership asks us to allow them to auto renew, and brings in a significant amount of the membership revenue annually. So it's a good thing. And if you haven't signed up for it, consider signing up for it next year. Next slide, please. I want to just also say we have not redesigned the membership cart. That has been done this year. It's actually active now. We have, it's now mobile available, desktop available. We have a large cross-functional team on the staff that works across all of the departments and all of the major areas, as well as volunteers who help us, stakeholders, and we also have brought in a vendor that specializes in user experience. It started in August 2019, and it just launched about 2 weeks ago. So look forward to an improved experience when you're going through your membership. You can actually see where you are. It helps you get through clearly, and much overdue enhancement to our system. Next slide, please. I always like to bring a few of the vTools and OU Analytics to each of these meetings for those of you who are using, and obviously I see a group of section chairs here. You now can actually identify easily members and society affiliates who are new or recently moved into your organizational unit. You'll have these slides, you can go back and look at it, but this will enable you for any of your membership development activities. I see there was some discussion in the chat about people, changing sections or relocating as a result of remote work. And, for those people who have updated their addresses in the IEEE databases, you should be, and are willing to receive promotions, because we do put that caveat on. You can actually now see if there are new members in there, if you would like to reach out to them, or at least to understand, potentially movement into your section. Next chart, please. Some new features in vTools, which are pretty interesting and help out with you sort of cultivating your following and your member following for your meetings. In the event activity dashboard, there is a My Events, and it enables anybody who has signed up for meetings to be able to see what they've actually signed up for. And could you advance to the next slide, please? So here you see, there's My Events, and I want to note, because there's been some discussion on this at various region meetings, this is available to any members and guests who have an IEEE account who have signed up for meetings. And so this gives people an opportunity to keep track of what they sign up for, and very helpful, so that they hopefully don't forget to come to meetings they sign up for far in advance. Next slide, please. I was having a lot of fun with this yesterday. I was actually trying to figure out, did I want to look at the Long Island section? Did I want to look at Jersey Coast section? I decided to just stick with Region 1, but this has been added in the vTools activity, and it enables you to see graphically and numerically each, for each of your units. I happen to show Region 1 here. It shows you the events by category. It gives us some graphic view of it. Shows you the reported events, the unreported, which are maybe held but not finalized, and then also future scheduled. Gives you some idea of days of the week that meetings are being held, and also whether they're virtual or not virtual. Some of you may be able to be meeting in person. If you could move to the next slide. Under the region, you can then see each individual section, and you can actually click to see the affinity group, student branch, and branch activity. I guess, again, where it's in the vTools system, but you can bring that in. And then, each of you that has your own section, you can see there's a parallel track for in the same area for you to see your own section and graphically. So the more information you put in, and work through vTools, we're trying to add a lot of these features to make it easy for you as leaders to track what's going on in your section, and your groups, without having to go, individually into each group and its reporting. Next slide, please. I always like to plug the Center for Leadership Excellence. This is a significant on-demand training center for local leaders. It serves the audiences you can see here, the region, section, chapter, affinity group, student branch. There are section level committees. For those of you who are active in Volt, and Kate Duncan didn't put me on the spot. She usually puts me on the spot about how many Volt graduates are here, and she happens to be one of our most prominent Volt graduates. There's all of the training for Volt is here, and it's not limited. There are like precursor courses, and any of you can take those courses. It's about IEEE OUs. So if you want to know more about standards, there are conference training, recordings. We have put up all the Sections Congress recommendations and recordings, and the new virtual training from 2021 from Sections Congress is also up here. It is a really a very good resource, and we are going to be trying to really do some advertising around it, because there's a lot of opportunities here for new members in your section, or if you're trying to recruit a volunteer, they can actually take a look at it and see what would be involved in their job. Some of you might want to look at how to help others within your management team, and that can be helpful. There variety of courses here, so I can't plug that enough. Next slide, please. The Sections Congress virtual training, we spoke about that earlier. It was held this year. The training is there here. This gives you an idea of sort of what happened with it. This is a readout on it. The surveys, you can see 53 of the attendees had attended Sections Congress for the first time. We have a number who have significant volunteer experience. Anyway, you can see this here. All of the recordings and slides are available. There is a Sections Congress website. To the question, Peter, about 2023, it will be the weekend around August 12th and 13th. I guess it's the 11th, 12th, and 13th of 2023. So that's that. I'm looking at the contract now for that. We will be holding it in Ottawa. Again, not again. We didn't hold it in 2020 in Ottawa. We're going to hold it now in Ottawa at the Shaw Center. So looking forward to seeing many of you there. Hopefully we'll be through the pandemic, and definitely more to come on that. Next slide, please. I always like to end with another plug for and to support Jason Hui, our MGA Awards Chair and your Region Awards Chair. We are still in cycle for receiving MGA individual awards. The deadline for receipt of these is 15 October. You have about 2 months to get those in, and it would be wonderful to see recognitions coming in for consideration by the committee from Region 1. To the question about that had come up from some of the local industry, we have Friend of MGA, IEEE MGA Awards. And what these are, it's an opportunity for your section to send a nomination in to recognize somebody who has been supportive or who has collaborated with you. It can be an individual, it can be a company if you're working, I don't know, somebody had mentioned LL Bean. There's not a requirement that it be a tech company. If you have a local company that you're partnering with in your area that's been supporting you either from connections with technology or connections through business, providing a meeting location at no charge, providing you with guest speakers, you have the opportunity to recognize them. It's a certificate that you can present, and it's a nice opportunity within your section to acknowledge the support that you've been getting within your local group. And then certainly we'll recognize the sections. And I think with that, that ends my presentation. I'm certainly available at any time for the remainder of the time. And certainly you can certainly get to me or to members of the MGA staff to ask any of the questions you have, or send it through one of your officers. And I think Ed has my email and phone numbers on speed dial. So if you can't find me, he can. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, CJ. As always, very good, and we appreciate very much that you spend some time with us. As she said, questions can and will be taken. I want to move on with the agenda since we all kind of want to take back a little bit of our Saturday. But as CJ said, questions, if you send it to her, you send it to me, they will all get answered. So that ends our information point from our very, very important people. And now we're going to go to our local important people, and the first one is the Treasurer's Report. So Bala, please.
Hi, Greg. Can I do the share?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon, guys. This is Bala Prasanna. I have only a few slides here. I did the song and dance for about 1/3 of the people yesterday. So the song is the same thing, but the dance is a little bit different because we have the section chairs and so on. The following slides you have, of course, you are going to see some numbers and some bullet items. So just focus on the significance of the numbers or the trend that these numbers reveal. That's more important to you than the actual numbers. The actual numbers are certainly relevant to the region and they are region specific. But for the section chairs and section treasurers, the trends or some, the meaning between the lines or what these bullet items indicate is probably the takeaway for you guys. Okay, usually, I give out the report in terms of our net worth. And the net worth always is in comparison with what is it almost today compared to when we finished last, December of last year. So in this case, you see December of last year is about $675,000 and about $828,000 as of August 15th. So you will probably recognize it is a sizable chunk, and we already talked about how we plan to spend and all those nice things through our budget process and many other discussions that we already had in the past. Again, the source of income for us for the region is basically assessment and rebate. The sections do not get assessment, but they do get the rebate. And as you will see probably in the next slide, this rebate that we get from MGA is decreasing because it is proportional to the membership. And as you have seen, the membership is in decline for the region. And that's one thing, that these numbers reflect the trend that CJ and other folks have been speaking about. There is also another part to the same story, conference revenue, right? So you see that we have generated about $18,000 in conference revenues, and we are only about July or August this year. Not to say that we are going to double it, but I think it is a significant chunk. The takeaway here is even as the assessment and rebate revenues are declining, Region 1 is stepping up and trying to find its own sources of revenue, and conference activities is one significant activity that we are focusing on. So there is something that the sections and chapters also probably need to be doing in order to create their own source of revenue. Pace is another thing here. We used to get about anywhere from $12,000 to $17,000, $18,000 in a year. But again, as you heard from Kate Duncan and many other people before us, we are not going to get this kind of allocation from IEEE USA going forward. But then again, that doesn't mean PACE-related activities are going to stop or anything. So we have director's discretionary funding that's available, and we have other allocations within the region that still make PACE activities possible. So again, the takeaway for the sections is you need to find within yourself how you manage your money, and certainly if you put in your 50%, region is always willing to put its 50% through the PACE program. The outflow, the spending is really $10,000 because we did not have any face-to-face meeting. And it's almost a pittance compared to the revenue that we had. So again, the bigger picture is revenue itself is declining, but then again, our spending also is not that much, and you can see that yourselves. Okay, the highlights for the section here is there is no net liability. Again, for some of the section chairs who were not aware, we owed about $25,000 to MGA. CJ was aware of it, or is aware of it. Repayable by the region in 5 installments of $5,000 per year. And we cleared that liability ahead of time last year. The next bullet item is financial audit. So now we use IEEE audit team from Piscataway. So they conducted the Region 1 financial audit, and we got our satisfactory dispensation, which is what you generally get if all your books are in order and they're happy with what they see, how we have practiced, and how we have kept our books and so on. Just another thing here that leads to the last bullet here. In the past, we used to have our own Region 1 audit team that used to supplement and complement what the IEEE audit team was doing. But going forward, we are going to redefine, repurpose the Region 1 audit team so that we can get more value out of the local, let's call them watchdog team or inspection team or whatever it is, and let the IEEE audit team do what they do best. Okay, that's a separate discussion. I know Hal and Bob Pellegrino are our Region 1, what we used to call audit team, but going forward, we'll come up with a different name. But I think we are looking forward to their continued contribution in that role. Again, when we have so much of money, we like to transfer some money into our long-term investment fund. So we have been doing that systematically. So it's a consideration for the sections. If you have some money, so park some money in your long-term investment fund, because IEEE long-term investment fund investments are generally good. They are on par with what you see in the market, because the professional managers are the one who really manage at the end of all these things. Pete Eckstein already talked about it. So here I have written $19,500, and I think the new number is more like $9,500 when the dust settles. But that's the money that we already have spent or paid, so it's just for awareness purposes. The next one is really the big one. Next-gen banking transition is in progress. As far as the region is concerned, as far as the sections and chapters are concerned. So either they have heard or they will begin to hear lots of, either invitations to training or one-on-one engagement, or when you run into some issue, you'll have a one-on-one association with the Teresa Sachs or Arslan Khan or those people. But the big message here is, next-gen banking, like Steve Welby and all these folks have been saying, it is here. It is already, taking shape, and Region 1 is using it both for expense reimbursement processing purposes and for other treasury activities like report generation or reconciliation or internal transfers between CB accounts and so on. Again, the big takeaway here for the section chairs and the treasurers is NetSuite is retired. So you will not have the same anxieties that you typically have during the last 2 weeks in January or the first 2 weeks in February, trying to close your books and meet the rebate deadlines or the bonus rebate deadlines and so on. So instead, it will be done more systematically. So that is one big advantage you're going to have. The second one is you typically have either 2 or 3 books that you need to maintain. One was, for example, the CB reports. The other one was the NetSuite reports. The third one was probably your own pencil and paper Excel spreadsheet or something of that nature. So going forward, NextGen Banking allows you to have only one set of books that you can use, that you can extract, make Excel copies out of it, and then use it for your own section reporting or budgeting process, right? Of course, for region, we still need to maintain 2 sets of books for our own reasons, but then again, it is a simplification compared to what we had before. The final thing I just wanted to mention about NextGen Banking as a takeaway for section chairs is use of NextGen Banking is still not mandated. They're still giving you some leverage, right? In terms of, if you already have the check leaves, can I use those check leaves to make payments or whatever, right? So they're a little bit tolerant at this point. Okay, but they are encouraging you to get into NextGen Banking, have your own accounts for the section chairs, for the volunteers, for the treasurers, for your different roles. Again, use of those checks is tolerated, but again, not using those checks is encouraged. So that is the big message if you want to take anything back at this point. This is, again, we already talked about it. Look at the rebate column for this section, right? Rebate column, at least for the region is concerned, it is pretty much, consistent from $68,000 to $65,000 over 10 years is not a big change. But what is important is the assessment from $108,000 down to $62,000, which is about 40% decline. Because for region, it is membership number related. It reflects approximately about 40 to 42% decline in region membership. And of course, you also see your own proportional decline in membership, and also the rebate that you get has decreased. And that is the reason why you need to have your own programs to make up for the loss of rebate money that the sections and chapters are going to get. So that's the powerful message here from a different point of view compared to what CJ and those folks were saying from their membership perspective. And here, it is the dollars and cents perspective. So it really hurts if going forward, if you do not plan ahead, think ahead for your own revenue generation. Okay, again, in a very quick slide here. Please ensure your sections have completed their 2021 audits. Up until now, either myself or the area chairs would, bid upon the section chairs and treasurers to complete their audit by about June 30th of the following year, right? So now going forward, I don't think we will just come back and keep asking, but then again, it will be an expectation that you would have completed your audits by June 30th going forward. Okay, so please make that as a part of your DNA if it's not already done. Okay, so we already talked about NextGen financials, banking and expense reporting are here. So please make sure you get on board with it. I'm going to just, this is a slide that I always typically have because the sensitivity here is when you are signing contracts with the hotels or with other vendors, right? There is a certain process that you need to be aware of based on the amount of money that you are liable to pay to the vendor. So, and at some point, IEEE Piscataway needs to be engaged, and this slide pretty much says that, because we have gotten in trouble if we do not involve Piscataway in these big amounts as far as the liabilities are concerned. Our typical MGA contacts, Lisa Sachs. Okay, she works for example, Cecilia, right? And we have Caitlin Chow from the audit department, Stacy, and a couple of these folks. So they're all available for our day-to-day needs. I think that is all. Unless I have any questions, I'm done.
Thank you, Vala. By the way, I've been watching the discussions on the chat, and so let me say, as you saw, we are budget healthy. As you saw, we have saved money by not holding these meetings. With respect to site, we at the region would very much be happy to help and fund site projects within sections. We had that discussion when we invited the site chair to talk to us. You got the commitment that we would support those type of projects. And so let me just say, we want to fund good projects. We won't send you money and say, here's some money, do something. That's like money for nothing. So yes, we will fund. We will fund activities in PACE. We will fund activity in sites. We will fund appropriate activities. You have to have a plan. It has to be reasonable. It has to be done in a certain amount of time. But if you do,
what's really cool about site is that you don't need a lot of money to do a great deal of good and to get people engaged.
absolutely, absolutely, and we are willing to support it. So just be
people really
aware.
are looking for something to do.
Yeah. So we are willing to do so. We're this is these are contact sports, right? Everything we do at the section is a contact sport. You have to get involved, right? And so if you are, we will. By the way, we will fund. Nothing would make me happier, to tell you the truth, right? All right. Thank you.
Excellent to hear. It's excellent to hear.
Thank you, Balda. Again, given the surplus, I expect the outgoing director gift to be a Porsche, but that's all right. We have exceptional. You know what? I'm not happy with the fact that we have money put away, because it means, unfortunately, that we didn't do stuff, right? And so whereas, it's great that we have a lot of money, it means that for 2 years we haven't had the kind of activities we used to. So it's not about putting money away. This is not what we're about, right? It's about us being able to do things. It just we haven't been able to do the things that we wanted to do. On the other hand, the one thing that came across from all of this is that virtual activities were important, got many things done, and we did it on the cheap, which means that we can do other things. We can do more things, right? With the money, as long as we keep smart about how we run some meetings. So thank you all. And now we're going to shake our money maker, which is Charles, my wartime consigliere. Where are you? He's also our conference coordinator, and and he's been making money for us. So Charlie, you're on.
Okay, I'm going to try to share my content. All right. Okay. Do you see my slide here?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so let's see if we can go from there. All right, well, thank you. As you've already heard from the budget committee, as well as our treasurer, we're doing okay in conferences. Let's see if we can do okay in PowerPoints. Next, come on. Okay, so there's, we okay? Yeah, so there's several types of conferences we have in Region 1 that are in addition to the conferences put on by our Technical Activities Board folks, that is our technical societies and councils. We have no paper type industry conferences and workshops, such as the CWIT conference. We have talking head conferences which are normally small academic conferences where about the only people that attend are the people making presentations. You all may have a section or chapter distinguished lecturer type of conference. We have that in the Long Island section as the Long Island Systems Application and Technology Conference. And we also have some PACE events. I've included two types. They are the career development workshops that occasionally occur. And we have the SPACs, which we'll talk about a little bit later. In general, there are two categories, major categories of these conferences, ones that make money for us and ones that don't. The ones that make money for us are called financial co-sponsorships, FCS, and the technical co-sponsorships are where the region lends its name to an already existing IEEE conference in order to permit that conference to use the e-notice and other regional resources. The basic conference concept that I like is expenses minus income equals surplus. Surplus gives us ability, as you heard when we talked about this year and next year's budget, to give our director and others the ability to expend funds that are not normally available for us to expend. These are funds which are not member funds, which I'm not going to get into it, but there are some restrictions on what member funds can be used for. Surplus funds are not included in that. The events that we can fund as a result are some chapter meetings, student professional awareness conferences. And the key piece that you need to be aware of, the two pieces are first, there is a full presentation that I gave, I think in 2019 at the meeting that should still be up on the website that talks about how you as a section can approach creating a conference. And certainly I'm here to help in any way, shape, or form that we can to make that easy for you. I do note that IEEE has what's called Policy 10, which covers conferences. And one of the parts of that is a recommendation that when you set up your conference budget, there's at least a 20% preliminary surplus. And the reason for that is primarily to make sure that you don't go under. You may think that food and beverage is going to cost you $1.50, but it may end up costing you $3, and that's what the surplus in the initial budget is there for. In general, we have the need to know that surpluses can be used to build a reserve to sustain conferences, but I should point out that each conference is an annual event which starts and ends in a particular year. So we can't immediately take the surplus and push it over to the next year's conference income side. But what we do instead is we provide seed money loans based upon those reserves or those surpluses to sustain the conference. So Policy 10 continues to talk about the technically co-sponsored conference. Let me warn you, and that's a strict warning, that any conference that you decide at your section level, at your chapter level, or even at a student branch level, which has happened in the past, that you want to co-sponsor that is not already financially co-sponsored by a IEEE unit, you will be responsible for, and it may have gone up, I apologize if it has, but roughly $1,000 registration fee plus $15 per paper as a fee for all papers going from that technically co-sponsored conference into the Explore database. Okay. For MGA OUs, which is us, unless otherwise provided for in our MOU, Memoranda of Understanding, any post-conference IP income from papers, et cetera, would go into the MGA coffers for use by MGA. Again, TCS fees do not apply to any conference where an IEEE OU has a financial co-sponsorship. So if IEEE Podunk section has a conference which it has 10% ownership of and 90% is owned by another not-for-profit organization, let's say a local university, that's okay. We can TCS additional OUs. But if there's no financial co-sponsorship, then these extreme fees do come into play and are there. Again, any questions that you may have going forward about doing a conference, co-sponsoring it, sponsoring it, please, I'm here to help you out. I do have to make sure you also understand that IEEE organizational units cannot co-sponsor a conference with a commercial organization. So let's say IBM decides it wants to do a conference, it's going to own X% and a local section is going to own Y%. That is not legal under the Policy 10 rules. Primary reason for that is that we are a 501c3 not-for-profit organization, and therefore we cannot be financially owning a conference with a commercial organization. Apologies to anyone in IBM that feels slighted.
By the way, Charlie, but on the other hand, if a section holds a conference and IBM wants to donate or provide a certain amount of money, that's fine, as long as,
Yes.
Yes. You can have industrial involvement. What you cannot have is, cannot be their conference and we are going to be involved in this type of relationship, right?
Thank you for that clarification, Ed. I would point out that what we have are patronage or donations that are available in almost every conference to be made by a commercial organization. It's just that we cannot financially co-sponsor with a financially co-sponsoring organization. So they can have a big stake in it, but not ownership in the conference itself. So one of the things that is overlooked sometimes when you do things, either conference-wise or in general as an IEEE entity, is you may not be aware that IEEE has tax exemption for sales taxes on purchases in our region in Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, and Vermont. However, in Vermont, you can't use that for conference meals, lodging or meeting room rentals, but you can for supplies and purchases of equipment, et cetera. The SPACS program, the Student Professional Activities Experience, and the Future Leaders Forum, which actually Kate had talked about, is now called EVO. Talk about having a local student branch involved in having a one-day event. And those of you that would like for additional information on that, please contact me offline. So what are our upcoming conferences? We have 3 for the remainder of 2021. They are all going to be virtual. The Ubiquitous Computing, Electronics, and Mobile Communications normally is at Columbia University. We have a 20% stake in that. The Wireless for Space and Extreme Environments Conference would normally have been in Cleveland, Ohio, but because of the pandemic, we have made that a virtual conference, and we have a 30% stake in that. And then finally, in November, there's the CWIT conference, the Conference on Emerging Technologies for a Smarter World, that I and Director Palacio are involved with, and we have a 10% stock share in that. The other 90%, for example, in this case, would be by Stony Brook itself. Just as a point of reference, we can expect somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 of additional income from these conferences by virtue of the fact that they are virtual and have a very small amount of expense and a reasonable income for the individuals actually attending. Not as much as normal, but those that are presenting papers do have a reasonably self-sustaining amount, which should give us several $1,000s for each of those two events. The 2022 list is considerably longer. It starts in January with a virtual conference. The remainder of the conferences, as of this time, which is premature, are expected to be at least partially in person and possibly partially hybrid. And you can see the list of them here. I've also indicated the percentage that the region has as its stake. Okay, and as you can see, the March one will be in New York City. It's the Radar Conference. It's a major conference. It is a conference of between $100,000 and $200,000 of income expense typically. The student conference is still on the books, possibly for March. That's something that has to be addressed by soon and others for next year. Then we have the Microelectronics Design and Test Symposium, which used to be called NATW. It's now called MDTS. I will change that. We have a 50% stake in that, and that will be presumably in the Albany area. We are jointly sponsoring that with the Schenectady section. The UEMCon in October of next year is expected to be at Columbia University in New York City. In November, the WE Forum East is expected to be in Providence, Rhode Island. And then the Seaward Conference in November in Stony Brook, New York. Finally, the LISAC conference, which is a technically co-sponsored, but 100% IEEE Long Island section owned conference, is expected to be in Old Westbury. And all of those are expected to be a on-site, in-person conference, except for the January conference. If there are any questions, help, or suggestions, please contact me, your favorite Region 1 Conferences coordinator, c.rubenstein@ieee.org, and I'll try to help you, help us, and that's it. So unless there are questions.
Charlie, thank you. The point that I want to make here is, you notice we are very active in trying to get conferencing, which I hope all of you are aware of and support. If you're close by, attend. Make sure your membership knows about them. We have an enormous conference in March. This is a premier worldwide conference. It's going to happen here in New York. Through the efforts of, I think, Long Island section member Lorenzo. We petitioned to have it here. We went after to have it here in New York. So there's a lot of conference thing. It's going to be an active year. Please have your people be aware of it. This is good stuff that everybody benefits from. Thank you.
Ed, can I ask one question, perhaps?
Yes.
So Charlie, I think the burning question probably for many section leaders here is, how do they get their conference on this roster? And what does it really mean when you save 20, 30, 50%? And, can you go through just like what happens when someone wants their conference on our list?
Okay, so the first thing that has to be done is they have to fill out what's called an ICX form. It's a conference registration form, and have the conference registered with IEEE. You'll get a conference number. If you are a section or chapter of a section conference, you may decide to use the actual bank account of the section rather than creating another bank account for the conference. And that will be an option that will be available to you. As far as the specifics in that, if you have an existing conference, and I know that a lot of sections do have them, I sometimes find out about them accidentally. Some of them are actually major conferences, but again, unless they inform me that they're having this and that and that it's been registered with IEEE, it's not possible for us really to advertise them for them. Moving to the next part of the question, the percentages listed here on this slide, for example, I'll just take the 50% of the conference in May. That 50% is what we call a risk reward. It means that 50% of the liabilities of the conference and 50% of the surplus of the conference, after all the bills are paid, go to that owner. So if, for example, that conference were to make $1,000 in surplus, 50% of that, or $500, would be transferred from the conference over to the region. Conversely, if they were to lose $1,000, and what that means is their expenses are greater than their income, then the region has obligated itself to cover that $500 or $500 of that loss.
But if if you're running a local conference and you're running it all by yourself and you are asking for no regional involvement either in the risk reward portion, then that's your conference, and you have other ways for them to provide appropriate regional level advertisement. But these are the ones that we, the regions, are involved in risk and reward only. Right? So it's not all the conferences that are happening in the region, but it's the ones that the region has a stake in. Okay, does that answer, Greg?
That answers it. I guess the next question is what do they get for our involvement? So if they're going to give us, let's say, 50% of the surplus, Charles, what are you doing to kind of help them out so that they're going to get that surplus?
Okay, so
we provide.
Yeah. I'm sorry, the question is a little different, really. In reality, the financial co-sponsorship percentage for a local conference quite often implies that the local entity does not have sufficient funds to cover any contractual obligations before income from patronage or from registration fees, et cetera, comes in. So, for example, in this the microelectronics conference again, we, as well as Schenectady, each year are requested by the conference to provide $1,500 worth of a seed money loan, which at the end of the day, after the conference is over, is repaid to us before any surplus declaration. So it has to do with the seed money loan percentage as well. In terms of what we do, we provide a platform for providing e-notices to the region. We often can request other regions to also co-sponsor, since it's a regional event. We can ask them to not to co-sponsor, but to provide their membership with e-notices. And in general, we provide expertise in terms of having done, as you can see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 conferences a year for many, many years, hundreds of conferences, and having served on the conferences committee, understanding some of the nuances and the challenges of IEEE Policy 10. But the real point here that I need to, again, underscore is an IEEE OU is not supposed to have any conferences unless they are registered with IEEE to identify the fact that the conference is actually going on. We had problems in the past where, and we currently have problems in the current situation where I happen to know of at least a half a dozen section level conferences that are ongoing in several of our sections that are doing very well for the section, but are not registered as IEEE conferences. And therefore, we should not, as a region, post that information because we're basically allowing a backdoor. And then IEEE does not know what it's doing out there. It can't evaluate what's happening out there. And that's the reason for the ICX form.
But we also, look, we provide the advertisement, we provide, Charlie provides an enormous amount of personal support, in many cases being the treasurer, guiding him through the process. You know, I find myself, you know, at the Radar Conference, I'm in charge of industry involvement. So it gets involved at a larger level. And that's what we do for them. But to the key point, it's not, you know, they're not giving us money for nothing, right? They really want the downside coverage more than the upside share, right? So we provide the downside coverage. We are the financial arm that allows them to feel comfortable that if for whatever reason their conference doesn't succeed, they have a partner in the risk. I mean, that's what we do.
Ed, Charles, this is Steve Welby. I posted a link to the
Yes.
IEEE conference primer in the chat. It covers all this and more if folks are interested.
Thank you very much, Steve. I see that.
Yeah.
Much appreciated. Any other questions for Charles?
Yes, this is Bob Pellegrino again. Charles, I didn't see in the list, we have our Dr. George Giacos, chair of the New York Instrumentation and Measurement Society chapter, will be the general and technical program chair for the 2021 IEEE International Conference on Imaging Systems and Techniques. That's IST 2021. It's a virtual conference. It's going to be held in New York next week from August 24th to August 26th.
Well, thank you, Bob. So again, these conferences that are listed on this page and the previous page, and I can go back one page to the 2021, these are Region 1 co-sponsored. They're not conferences that are section co-sponsored. To the best of my knowledge, Region 1 is neither a technical nor a financial co-sponsor of the conference that you're referring to.
Okay, no, the section is the technical co-sponsor.
Yeah.
Right.
See, that's why I wanted to bring this up, because I think there is probably a lot of people that don't realize that they can reach out to the region to have them help with the conference that's being sponsored by the section. So I want, you know, my questions were to help clarify how someone might go about doing that.
Right. And again, technical co-sponsorship is perfectly fine for the region. But again, when you start your ICX form, if you include the region as a technical co-sponsor, then we can go ahead and have it as one of the listed technically co-sponsored. Right now, there's only one of them. And the reason for that technical co-sponsorship initially was that as not a member of the Long Island section, the region as a technical co-sponsor would allow me to be the chair of that conference and create the conference for the Long Island section as a 0% or technical co-sponsor. So that would be the way to do it, to inquire as to whether the region would be interested in becoming a technical co-sponsor. I can't see too many reasons why we would turn that a request from a section down. But again, it would have to go through the ICX form, which creates a memoranda of understanding and verifies that it is a legitimate IEEE event. And thank you, Steve, for putting that link up. There's also still from 2019 a much more in-depth conferences primer that I had made a presentation at that time. If Greg, if it's not available online, I can forward that up to you.
I found it was on the XCOM site, so I've moved it.
Thank
So,
you.
so the one last thing I'd just like to say is that this is what the discretionary budget is for. Is for helping sponsor things that we don't know about that may be coming in the future. So if you have a conference, you know, next month, it's not going to work, but next year, if you have a conference that's coming up and next year and you want the region to help co-sponsor it, now's the time to start reaching out so that we can sort of get Charlie involved and really talk about how the region can help. I guess that's my pitch.
Good pitch, well done. I believe that we have the next one up is WIE, but we have no presentation for WIE, Greg?
No, Charlotte, I think she said to us that she was gonna present on Sunday. She couldn't attend both, and we've
Okay.
canceled Sunday.
Okay, so beyond that, what's the next
The
item?
next one was actually Vince, and Vince looks like he's not with us at the moment.
Okay, but the key point that do you have Vince report quickly? Can we put that up for a second?
So he has a presentation. It's not really a report. I mean, I can run through it, but I'm not.
Let's see, go through it quickly. Okay, those are his goals. We can read that. Go ahead. I really wanted to get to his ask. These are the many things associated with it.
Okay.
These are all the different places we can find this type of information. Go ahead. Is this his ask? Okay, this is his ask that he has come up to us. So university STEM program, provide funding. So Region 1 is authorized to $250 for any section who participates in this program. And so this is key. Know that if you get involved in these types of programs, there is money already set aside for you from the from Region 1, and it includes this year as well as next year. This is really the point that I want to, and to give you the activity to have pre-university activities. Create tutorials, generate products, etc. So the point here is we have set some money aside, and Vince will monitor that and manage that for us, but be aware you have assets that can be had. I think it's really the point that I want to make.
Yep.
Thank you. And this is how you get a hold of Vince. And so if you do, then do, right? If you do, then do. We're happy to fund you. Okay. Next.
So Ed here soon. So what if the section actually need more than $250?
Well then you get me half this. The section has money. I mean, let me just say, a well-known secret is that it's not only the region who has money, right? The section has money. Various other places have money. Now, if you so we're not here to fund everything and not expect a little bit of bacon from the section on the frying pan as well, right? So, like I said, we're willing to take any and all discussions, but no, we're not here to fund the major, unless you or somebody comes along with something that has significant interest for the region wide to get involved in, then no. But yes, we will listen to everybody's spiel and then decide how to use our monies wisely. But I expect sections, I mean, the best kind of program is where the section has some skin in it as well, right? Actually, multiple people have skin in it as well.
Yeah, but I've kind of felt that the $250 might be too low, so may not be actually encourage the section to try to look into the STEM activity.
Well, it depends what it is that you think you're trying to achieve. And somebody said there's a lot of things that can be done that doesn't require a whole lot of money. All right, so again, and I'm sure that Vince will listen to any and all requests in the process, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was Vince that actually suggested that dollar amount. So there was some discussion about that, but he was the one that sort of pushed for that amount.
Okay, we're almost done. Let's see what else we have. Go put back the. No, we have Harold coming up. I believe that's what we. I don't have the agenda in front of me, but we have Harold's report.
Supposed to have right now, according to the agenda, was live members, although according to my copy, that's on here twice, and besides which there is, unless Lou had previously sent some slides to Greg.
He did not. He was going to talk, and he's not here, so we're going to
Right,
go
so-
past that.
Okay.
So Harold, you're up. Is he still here?
He may not know he's in mute.
They sent him a request. Harold, you got to unmute.
I did know that, but I heard a lot of noise in the background from a great-grandchild, so I had myself on mute. Just a very few things. I'm trying to address my remarks specifically to the sections. I would like to go to the next. One of the things that was never clear to me for a long time is how IEEE USA fit into the organization. And so this is here to just point out that IEEE USA is on a parallel level with MGA, and down near the bottom is PACE. The quote, non-committee, that's still a committee. One more, please. Next, please. So the key point of what the committee's trying to do, or was doing, was engage in K to 12 activities, and of course, be able to provide up to $750 in matching funds. Dave Imes with IEEE USA main office is still informally working with us as a committee. Among the things in the K through 12 activities are things like tri-engineering, STEM portal, and Vince has some new program now, and with the school level with programming and Python and a theory of flight. Both of those strike me as just wonderful events. And with the program just discussed a minute or two ago regarding this overall program, it does sound like even the activities that I'm trying to conduct with PACE are fading away. If we would go on a couple of slides, one more. You've mentioned that most activities have money. They should not be afraid to do it. I just wanted to point out that we have one section with less than 100 people. I'm not sure how much money they have in their coffers and may be most primed to ask for money. Vince Sochi is part of that organization. And just wanted to point out that then the next 9 sections in size have less than 500 members, and that's $750 of funding can very much make a difference to them. Next slide. So maybe my takeaway thoughts are there's money available. In order to request it, it's only a one-page request. That's looking at it using the concept of the PACE program, and that if to create such a thing, preparation assistance is available from me. Before I close out, I see David Casper's online. David Casper has been a long-term PACE coordinator for the Providence section, who's just moved on, and I just wish to say hello to him and good luck. And that's all I have. Thank you. Ooh, one more slide to say end. Okay.
Okay, so I just saw something that came up and said, would the first robotics be eligible? And so let me just say, if the section wants to support, then you have to make a request. But as I keep saying, there are different places that one can go for these things. we would be looking at matching, within some, within Sochi's point, you can probably find some monies there. You may find some monies in multiple other places, but in all cases, you need to put a proposal and you have to have, I would expect the section to have a significant part in the involvement and a reason why the section is doing this. Like CT has been supporting robotics forever. So it really has to do from a section focus. And all I can say is assess what you want to do and see how you're going to share in it and make your requests appropriately. So folks, we're at the end of our day. So let me yeah, absolutely. Let me say that my closing remarks are pretty straightforward. First, thank you all for being here. Thank you for all our VIPs. Thank you for making and providing all that information to our sections. As you are first well aware, and again, the tomorrow's meeting has been canceled, or hasn't been canceled, has been moved. And we will accept the fact that some of us are going to have storms. We're going to accept the fact that maybe some of us will not have connectivity. And so instead of pushing ahead with Sunday's meeting, we will try to reschedule it either for next week or the following. That portion of the meeting is more of the interactive portion of the meeting. This is where the areas we're going to coordinate a position that says, so from you, what did you learn? What each of these sections learn, and given what you learned, the second part of that, after we share that aspect, is what are you going to do given what you learned, right? So that's the aspect of the next meeting, or the gist of the next meeting. We will set that up, as I say, shortly. With that, unless there's any comments need to be made. Greg? So with that, let me call the meeting to an end, or at least a temporary end. And thank you all. So motion to adjourn, I'm assuming we can get one. And so we adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
I appreciate enormously that you all were here and to spend your Saturday with us. Be good. Do great things. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.